guys, welcome to the show. Welcome to 100% Tilted Discussions with Winning Underdogs. I'm your host, Michael-David. Today we have a really great guest. A guest that for a lot of you that are in the fitness industry will definitely know, considering she's in the top 1% of fitness influencers globally. You probably didn't know that.
Am I?
You are.
Cool.
Somebody who is not afraid to step into the unknown, somebody who is not afraid to speak from the heart, somebody who is just quite frankly not afraid to face fear and take a leap in what she believes is going to be the next great step in life. Knowing it's going to be hard, knowing it's going to be a challenge, knowing there's going to be a lot of things that she doesn't know, but she is figure-outable enough to figure it out.
Wow.
An elite athlete with First Form, been with First Form for a number of years. An elite athlete with Alphalete, for those of you that know, who's also, the company has Alpha Land about to open and also owns the drink 3D Energy. Ladies and gentlemen, Emily Hayden.
Wow, what an introduction. Thank you so much.
We all need those kind of introductions.
We
to
do.
Be honest.
I think you perfectly described my brand, Evolve, because everything that you described, that is literally what it's about, is facing the fear, standing up anyways, and running full force towards it, into the fear, into the uncomfortable moments in life, knowing that you'll figure it out.
I think the title of your podcast, Evolve with Emily, says it because you are continually evolving. Now,
it was very intentional why I named it that way. Why I didn't say like evolve or evolved. Someone said, hey, now that you've, done these things, you should change your name to Evolved. And I was like, that defeats the entire purpose. Their heart's intention was pure, but I helped explain the second that you think that you've evolved, the second that you think that you've arrived, that's the second that you start dying. Right? Every day is a new opportunity. Every day is a new chance to evolve. And to me, that's the exciting part of just life in general. That's what gives life life. That's what makes it exciting and what keeps the curiosity. If I felt like I had just done it all, like what would be the point?
Because the day that you say you've arrived is the day you stop learning.
100%.
Right.
One of my core values is having a teachable attitude and spirit. It's so important to me, and it's so important to anyone that I associate myself with. Because if I get around somebody and they don't have a teachable spirit, or they try to give off the perception that they know everything, they've already done everything, I'm like, you're not somebody that I can work with, because having a teachable attitude opens you up to the possibilities that you don't even know are there. And that's the thing, is that the world has endless possibilities. And good ways and bad ways, every single way. But it's like, if you think that you've already known, you're completely shutting yourself off. You're putting a box around yourself to say, no, I am not open to receiving the possibility that's next. And what kind of life is that?
Being interested, for so many, out of fear, they say what they need to say and they don't listen to what other people have to say, which means they're not really open to learning. You look at people that are in a quote unquote debate, and we're clearly in a debate culture right now, where so many people talk, but they don't listen.
100%.
Because they're not really wanting to learn, because if they learn something they didn't know, they're afraid that what they know could be wrong. That scares people.
It does.
Which honestly, that's the part of life, is you might be wrong.
Often.
And if you are, it is actually okay.
Yeah.
You can pivot. I mean, okay. You've definitely done some pivots in life.
I've had a lot of pivoting.
I remember the Emily Hayden, probably 10 years ago.
Wow,
10 years ago.
I cannot believe it's been that long.
You were a personal trainer at Gold's Gym in College Station, and you were quiet, off to yourself, but not soft-spoken, because you've always had this assuredness about your body language, about how you talk, how you articulate, right? That's the one thing that I did like about you when we first met. Now, you're also distracted by these two huge Great Danes, and I think you were doing show prep at the time.
I was,
I think.
I just started for my first show.
But when I was watching you work out, when us three guys were broing out, there is a video of this workout, by the way. I'll have to send you the link because it's really awesome.
Please
I actually
do.
watched it the other day.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I would love to see an old video of me training.
But you were, I remember I kept, like, you were always in some different corner of the gym. and you were so focused and driven on what you needed to accomplish.
Yeah.
And that is the low key. That is the thing that I have noticed and watched about you for years, because after that, you were married at the time.
I was.
And living life in College Station.
Mm-hmm.
And then we saw each other cross paths again because you decided to compete at a show literally last minute that I was photographing. And you ended up taking the overall of it, which is just so fantastic.
Thanks.
Because you're like, oh, I guess I'll compete.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
But I think that also speaks to how you look at your life and the things that you do, because it's not that you weren't ready. You were 100% prepared.
Mm-hmm.
You just made a decision of going, there's a show, I'm ready.
Yeah. I stayed ready. I was in my competing season. I stayed prepared, definitely, because I had competed pretty soon before that. And I didn't allow myself to say, oh, just because I don't have a show in mind, I'm just going to go crazy. I was there, I think, for the right reasons. So that's why I was able to do that, because I'd stayed ready, stayed on it.
So for a lot of people that have been following you for a long time, they've gotten to know a particular side of Emily. Now, you're very authentic.
Yeah.
But what I'm really curious about, and what we've really never talked about before, is now your brother, Lord Hayden, on Instagram.
Yes. Shout out to Sam. We love you.
And your dad are both shredded beasts.
Oh, yeah. There's more of them. I have 6 siblings. I have my dad and my stepmom, and everybody pretty much is an athlete. Yeah.
So you were raised in this?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. My dad was a bodybuilder back in the day, really into the bodybuilding lifestyle. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's a naturopathic doctor, so he does like holistic type of medicine, hormone testing, hair analysis, personal trainer, life coach. So a lot of who I am stems from growing up with him, obviously, and growing up in the gym environment. When I was 6 years old, I remember being at my dad's gym and training people with him and like telling them like, come on, you got it. One more. Come on, you got this. Don't give up now. As a little like 6, 7-year-old at work with him. And I loved it. And I remember the spray bottles and having to clean after the clients, and the attention to detail that we had to have at 6, 7 years old, cleaning our dad's gym. I think it was just a free maid service. Maybe that's why he had so many kids. But truly, those are some of my favorite memories. I remember even like napping in his office, because he would have an office aside from the gym itself. And so I just remember spending so much time there as a kid, and I loved it. And I learned so much. A lot of what we did there just in our regular everyday life has really shaped who I am and why I am the way that I am, and why details matter to me, and why keeping your word matters, and why I'm so competitive. I remember I always bring this up. I'll never stop talking about it. We did a push-up and sit-up contest with my brothers, and it was the last time that I beat my older brother, Daniel. So he's the one that's not really on social media. He's in law enforcement, some other things that don't allow him to be on social. But now if you saw him, he's a complete beast, powerlifter, bodybuilder, dominates everything that he does. But I beat him at push-ups. Back in, whatever year that was. I must have been like 6, 7 maybe. And it was like the greatest moment of our childhood that I will hold on to for forever. Anyway, so we're very competitive. But that competitive nature has definitely helped me get to where I'm at. That's why when you saw me training, you saw like the drive and the commitment and the work ethic, because I understood from a very young age that if you would work and simply not give up, you'd probably get to where you're going.
Bodybuilding is in anything athletically, but bodybuilding is one of those where it takes a long time to be able to build the base physique that you can eventually, peel the layers back and showcase, right? It does. But especially through prep, every day your body completely changes based on what you're doing, what you're eating and what you're doing, and your rest. There's very simplistic but very critical things that you have to have in your routine. That's why prep is difficult, because you have to have a very regimented routine for it to work, because you know that you do X, Y, Z, you're going to get this result. You take photos, you look, and you're seeing results daily.
Yeah.
Whereas other sports like swimming, me being a cyclist and triathlete, you're training in the winter to see results in the summer, right? So, but in bodybuilding, once you're done with your show, you go back to the building phase again. You go back to working on areas, because it's a sculpting sport.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's, I think that's what a lot of people probably get wrong about bodybuilding is they look at a lot of narcissism, but what these guys are looking at in the mirror is going, what do I need to chisel off a little bit or add clay to?
Yeah,
right?
for sure. Yeah, it's just a constant sculpting and trying to sculpt your body into whatever it is that either you desire personally, if you do bodybuilding as a lifestyle, or if you do bodybuilding as a competitor and as part of your profession, then it's absolutely shaping it into whatever category it is that you're trying to compete in, which really is, like you were saying, in competition season, when you're actually stepping on stage, yes, you're seeing, different results every single day, you're getting leaner every day, but it's really a marathon. It's not a sprint, because while you're seeing results every day, then when you go back into the off season, and let's say you start your off season, you're going to have a year, 2 years off to be able to build the quality muscle that you need to come back on. It's the long game. You're sitting there doing a workout 600 days out from your next show, putting all of your effort into it, and then the next day, 599 days left, right? Yeah. And no one really ever counts out that far, I don't think, but I don't think people realize that I think this is what's hard. When you're in a competition prep and you're leaning out and you're getting ready for your show, you have all of this external validation. And so you're getting all this external validation on social media. When you go and you see your friends, everybody is commenting on how you look. That when you switch and you go into an off season where now the goal and the point is to not be lean. The goal and the point is to add that lean muscle, which hopefully you can add lean muscle, right? And not go too far overboard. But you're not getting that external validation because you're not looking sick. You're not looking crazy. To a trained eye, to a trained bodybuilder, they can see you're adding density, you're adding muscle mass. But to everybody else, it almost looks like you kind of let yourself go a little bit because you're not as lean. They have this idea, this picture in their head of what you looked like when you were lean, and now you don't look like that anymore. So they almost put your value or put your work ethic on what they externally see, not realizing what you're doing internally, what you're doing every single day, and the muscle that you actually are adding. So I think for a lot of people that join bodybuilding because of social media, because they see that it's a trend, they don't prepare themselves for what they're actually going to experience when they go into the off season, and it makes them sometimes not adhere to the off season the way that they need to in order to be successful. A lot of people will say off season means off. And it's like, are you insane? Like, off season is even more important. That's when you're actually building the quality muscle. That when you're in season, you're dieting, you're losing weight, you're doing your cardio, you're just stripping that off. You are stripping off everything to show what you built during your off season. So I always would rephrase it and call my off season the improvement season, because it's really the only time that you're making solid improvements to your physique. When you're in prep, that's really just to shred it all away, shred away the fat, and show what you've built and worked so hard for. So I think it's important to have this longevity, this long-term mindset, this marathon mindset when you're going after something like bodybuilding.
Man, there's like a lot of things with what you just said.
Take your pick.
Social media, a lot of people say it's changed people, it's only exposed people. It's because we now have an outlet to get validation because we're not validating ourselves.
Yeah. So
we're looking for it externally. So then you end up with this dysmorphic body image of yourself because you're only getting acknowledgement when you're thin, when your muscles are popping. And then when you go into improvement season, you have that fat, you're getting your natural fat back that your body needs to have hormonally.
Totally, especially for women.
But how many people have I seen? Now, you and I have been in this industry a long time. You not so much, but still connected to a lot of people that are. And what is, I feel disheartening is when people start putting out their photos from when they competed a long time ago. And their this is that, their life was amazing when they were varsity back in high school.
100%.
They're showcasing what they feel like was their best time in life, their best physique in life. When honest, and I think you and I definitely agree with this, because anybody that's really successful in any venture, I've always found to be a common thread. They were a competitive athlete in some form. Because what you gain, and I was talking to somebody about this morning, they're kind of getting back into the routine of working out. And I said, the days that you don't want to do it, you do it. When it's getting hard, don't quit. When you feel like you have no gas, add a little bit more, because what you're gaining, it's not about the physical part.
Yeah.
This is the mental endurance, the mental resilience, and the self-confidence you're building, because when you want to quit, you don't. You're now able to be confident and go, this is actually my best self. Now, the physical part, that's icing on the cupcake.
100%, yeah.
But we've put the importance in the physical that's always changing. And so we want to put something that should be consistent, like self-confidence, and leveraging it on something that's always changing.
Yeah, no kidding.
Likes always change. Yeah. Follows always change. Yeah. Opinions of what people think looks good or not. And my God, man. I know you've probably dealt with the social trolls.
Oh, absolutely. If you put your worth into even just into crowds of people, 1 second, I mean, look at all throughout history. 1 second, the crowds will cheer for you. And the next second, they're crucifying you. You know, literally, like that's how quick it can change. So it's so important in this day and age of social media and of people, anyone being able to grab a platform, man. And then even people that set their eyes or their goals on having a platform, not realizing what it comes with. Some people that don't realize that that's something that they would never actually want to experience. That some people I don't think are meant or built to be able to handle what comes with having a platform and with having that many opinions on your every single move, every single decision that you make in life, on your hair color, on your outfit. Like you're getting judged on so many levels. And if you're not prepared for how to handle that, or if you're not confident in who you are as a person, confident enough to get all the hate and say, that's silly, you know, like they're calling you out for something that you're not. So if you're not confident in who you actually are, you may take that and it could destroy you. It could do, you know, some damage.
Do you remember the first, because when you and I first became friends, you didn't have a social presence.
No, none.
And now you've got nearly 300,000 followers on Instagram. And I don't know what you've got in your other platforms and stuff, but that's a lot. That's, you've amassed an audience. And do you remember the first time you got thrown some shade?
The very first time? You know, I don't remember the first instance. Like I've experienced a lot of that in my time, but it actually doesn't stick out in my mind. Like I can't remember the first time. I mean, I remember the first time I got destroyed on the internet. Yeah. And that, I mean, I can go into that if you want. Like that was brutal.
So when that happened, I mean, as a human, you don't like people to talk bad about you. We don't want that. When that happened, first, how did you react? Yeah. And then how did you walk yourself beyond that?
You know, it happened when I was going through a period in my life where I had just gotten my divorce. So I had just separated from that. And I think there was a lot of things that played into the public's response on that. I think one of the biggest things is that I was younger. I also was more immature, so I didn't know how to handle it. I wasn't even able to handle what I was going through, let alone being able to properly present that to the public. You know what I mean? So like it was so much responsibility for me as an influencer to be able to relay that message. So the way that I dealt with it, which was my pattern, was I avoided it. I mentioned it and that's it. And I moved on. And I think now being more mature, having done a lot more, you know, having a lot more life under my belt than I did back then, I think I would have handled the situation differently in the sense that, not that it's necessary for me to explain myself, but I think I would have given the audience a little bit more. You know what I mean? I basically just didn't give the audience anything, any reason. And so because of that, I think they were so angry with not knowing what happened or not getting any sort of like feedback from me. But back to your original question. So I was going through this period, which was the most painful period of my entire life. I don't wish that upon anybody.
Because you guys have been married for how long?
It wasn't very long. We were together for almost 6 years, I believe, but only married for about 1.5 years. Yeah. But when it was happening, you know, I started getting the swarms and swarms of hate as soon as the video went live. Really? And I mean, it was thousands of people saying the worst things about me that don't match up with my character. And I actually have a journal entry. So it's funny that you asked this. And I found it the other day and I was actually shocked because I don't remember responding this way. And the way that I responded was I was journaling, and I was journaling like writing to God. And I was just like, I had just read in the Bible of this message when someone was getting ridiculed for something that they didn't deserve. And their response was, forgive them for what they don't know. And So my journaling response was like, God, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know the story. So they're throwing the shade, and I actually understand why. Like, so I was very empathetic with why people could have been so angry or so frustrated or so hurt. And I understood that it didn't reflect my character, but I also was a girl that was hurting beyond words that I could even express. Like, think about the darkest, hardest, most painful moment of your life. That's where I was at, experiencing that. So these people have no idea that they're saying all these things, you know, trying to tear me down when I'm already at my very last thread. You know, so for me, there wasn't even anger. There wasn't even hurt from what they were saying. It was just, God help me in this moment because I'm barely hanging on right now. You know, and in that moment, what I did was I had to turn all of that off. So I had to not read any of the comments. I had to not give it any of my attention because I was very hyper aware to where I was at personally. I was very hyper aware to my heart's condition. And I knew that my heart couldn't handle anything, any more pain, not even in like an ounce, you know? And so that's why I don't even, at the time I didn't even, I didn't blame them for their reaction. I just chose not to participate in it. And so I separated myself and I got with God and I allowed him to be there for me during that time. And literally it was me and God on my kitchen floor and that was it. And that's what it was for a long time. And I really had to separate myself from the masses. You know, I kind of distanced myself from social media in general. I was much more disconnected, honestly, because I couldn't allow myself to gain or to take any amount of validation, any amount of comfort or anything from the crowd. I needed it from the one true source that for me wouldn't change and that would be there for forever. And I'm so glad that I went through that period of time because then it allowed me to show up on my platforms and in my life just in a completely different way where I'll never gain my happiness, my security, my love, my comfort from anyone or anything. Like I already have that. So anything else in addition is a plus, or it's just something that I don't need to give attention to if it's trying to drag me down.
We talked about this before the show.
Yeah.
Wow, Emily.
Yeah, there's a lot that people don't realize. And that's why when I see people throwing so much hate on social media, especially when they don't even have a story, let alone the full story, you know, I look at them and I'm like, man, you never know what someone's going through on the other end of that phone. They think that they're just sitting there writing a mean comment and they think that they're justified in the comment. And I will go to bat any day for anyone that's being bullied because it's like, you have no idea at the other end of the phone if they're just barely even hanging on by a thread. Don't you dare kick someone while they're already down, you know? And so that's why I focus a lot on my platforms on just speaking words of life and speaking words of encouragement. Yeah, I won't even go and argue with someone else that's arguing because I think that's a misuse of my time. I think that I have the ability of life, I have the opportunity of life and have the ability to speak life into people. And that's my goal. That's my purpose. That's literally why I'm here on earth. That's why I have a podcast. You can literally just sit there and speak. But my goal is to speak life into people, not discouragement, not belittlement, not bullying, not hate, not envy, not jealousy, not any of those things, because that just tears people down. And we have enough things in this world that's tearing people down. We need people that are going to speak life and encourage and build other people up. So I try to lead the way by leading the example and encourage just one other person to do that. Because if I can convince one person on my social media account to choose to speak life into somebody else, and that makes a difference in their community, I just think that it's the domino effect and that'll continue to happen. And, you know, that's my goal, is just one person. You know, you say I have all these people on social, and in reality, I just look at it as it's you and me, you know, and what can I do for you today? And how can I speak life into you today? And how can that have an effect on you and your community? Because if I just focus on that one person, the rest takes care of itself.
My dad told me years ago, I was going through a really difficult time. And so to give you one piece of advice, just take it for however you want. He said, but if you really want to get through a hard time in life, get your eyes off of yourself and go help someone else.
Yes.
Which it sounds like that's part of what this mission is for you.
Yeah. Because
it's not that life will ever be easy. When people expect life to be easy, they're missing out on the opportunity of who they can become as a result of this struggle in that's trials,
yeah.
right? Because people err on the side that they expect it to be easy, right? They get into a new job or they get a promotion. They expect it to be easy. They start this business. They expect it to be easy. They get married. They expect it to be easy. They sign a new contract for a new deal. They expect it to be easy.
Yeah.
That's actually just the day one of going, this is actually going to be the hardest thing I've ever faced in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're doing something new, that's the way it should be, right? If you knew everything you needed to know to do the thing that you're wanting to do, you would have already done it.
100%.
But if you're looking at it to be easy, you're missing the point. So you take your platform and your voice is almost a way to help you get through what you're going through, because you're looking at your trials and your struggles and your lessons, not as poor me, why me, but I want to use this to help other people.
100%. You know, it's funny. I had this realization after the whole divorce thing, which I couldn't even say that word for a very long time because I was so heartbroken by it. And I also just didn't want it to be real, you know? But I had this realization soon after. I was just like, oh, that's why I had to go through it. And it's, in my opinion, because now I relate to, unfortunately, at least 50% of marriages out there. And I know that I was given this platform for a reason. And I think I've experienced a lot in my life. And I know that my life experiences are not just for me, not just to mold and shape me into my highest version, which is great, but for me to pass that along, for me to say, hey, I get you. Like, I've been through that. I know you're struggling. You'll be all right. Let's go.
You know, I've been there. We are the common thread in our life. And that was a thing that I was avoiding for a long time, right? Yes, I can say this, you know, this happened, they did this, they did that, they didn't do this, they didn't do that. But it all comes down to I am the common thread, right? And if I'm not liking the outcomes of my life, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What am I doing wrong? What am I missing, right? And I had to own some things to really understand the lessons I needed to learn, right? What was a lesson that you learned coming through that divorce about relationships, about yourself? What was a takeaway that you, I know it takes time to get that. It takes a bit to come, let the dust settle and kind of revisit it without pain, but revisit it with more of a self-audit, right?
Yeah.
What was a takeaway from you from the marriage, the divorce, the relationship?
Yeah. How much time do you have?
Let's go. Let's roll.
Have a Santa Claus list of things that I learned about myself. And man, what a growing process that has been, you know? And I think one of the number one takeaways, which might just be for me personally, based on my own beliefs, is that number one, for me and my belief, my person that I am with, they have to love God more than they love me. That is a non-negotiable for me, and that is so important for me. And it's something that I think I thought that God was a part of the equation because it was included, but there's a very, very big difference in including God in something and in letting him be your personal, individual source of happiness, of love, of peace, of clarity, because it's way too much pressure to be that for somebody else. So for someone that doesn't have that individual relationship with God, they often will use a person to put all of their happiness into. And that's way too much pressure for any person. So I think for me, really recognizing the difference between, you know, everyone says like, put God first, you know, God should be in a relationship. But for me, that experience showed me what it meant to just have God included versus an individual that is passionately pursuing the heart of God. And that's what I desire in my future relationship. So that's one big takeaway that I had for sure. I think another takeaway that I had was that if the individual is not doing well, there is no chance that relationship is going to be thriving. And so I think I took a lot of things personally in the sense that the explanation that I took from what might have been happening was that, wow, like you don't love me kind of thing because of what's happening, not realizing that someone on the other end of that they were struggling themselves as an individual. And there was a lot of things that were never said. There were things that were left unsaid. And so I think each individual has to first focus on themselves, becoming the best version of themselves so that they can be honest with themselves. Because if they're not honest with themselves, they can't be honest with anyone else. So I think that's important. And I think that being so young when we met, I believe I was like 18 or 19, and the fact that our relationship was so easy the whole time, I didn't understand when it got hard why it was hard. I didn't get it. I was like, I thought we were in love. I thought that that's what that was. And so I think that I had a distorted view of love. And I think now I fully understand that no matter if it's a business or it's a relationship, it's a friendship, that the struggle and the really ugly parts are a part of it. And through the ugly parts come some of the most beautiful parts, assuming that you're aligned in the ways that you should be, you know? So there's a lot that I learned from that. And I think I'm still learning so much from that, that I'll apply to my future relationships. But it's definitely been something that has given me such a heart for people that have ever gone through that. Because it's one of those things that as many lessons as I feel like I've learned from it, and as much as I have taken from that experience to help grow me personally, you know, in the back of your mind, you always just kind of wonder like, damn, like, why did I have to go through that? You know, and wishing that it hadn't happened that way. But at the end of the day, life is life. And now when I look at the struggle of even anyone else, I'm able to look at the struggle and say, this is the beautiful part. Because what's going to come as a result of your struggle is so much more beautiful than if you had never struggled.
As an athlete, we clearly know this. If you want to get stronger, you want to get bigger, you've got to add resistance. You've got to go to failure. This is why people don't understand failure. Athletes understand that. To get better, you have to fail.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You have to push yourself. You have to embrace failure. It's like the parable, strong winds make strong trees.
So true. Yes. Right? So true.
Right?
Yeah.
You look at, there's pictures I've seen of, beachfronts, like rock faces, and there's one tree left. Roots everywhere, hanging on, and actually leaning in.
Wow. That's something.
Right? Now, you ask anybody in the team, they all know one of my phrases is, if it's hard, lean in.
Yeah, 100%.
Don't run away, because that's what makes you different. If you're the one willing to lean in, you're going to be the one better. You're going to be the one that's learning. You're going to be the one that realizes you're not as strong as you thought you were.
Yeah.
But if you stay leaning in, you're going to get stronger.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Right? The more you lean into that wind and the harder it blows, the more you lean in.
Yeah.
You're the one still standing. Take the victory and keep learning.
Another rule that I have now for my future relationships is that I first have to see somebody in all 4 seasons. And that is part of the reason why. I do.
It's so funny you say that.
Really?
That was one of the things I realized, because we do change throughout the year, right?
Well, it's that. And it's also, I think people can put on a little bit of a face for a little while, but they can't keep it up for a consistent year. And if you look at their actions consistently over a year, you can tell who somebody truly is. So that's definitely a new rule that I have for myself. And it goes into what you were saying about when it gets hard, lean in. I want to see somebody in the hard moments. I want to see what they do. I want to see if they quit. I want to see if they give up, because I need to know that first. And I think that being so young, that's not something that I looked for before I entered marriage. To me, quitting is never an option. So I never knew that that was an option to other people. I didn't get that. Whether it be quitting on themselves or quitting on somebody else, you know? So that's definitely something that is very important to me now, is just seeing them in all seasons to see when those pressure situations arise, how they handle that and how they respond. Because man, somebody that handles a pressure situation in the sense that they fail 10,000 times and get up and keep trying, whew, yes, sign me up for that. But somebody that quits at the first sign of failure, at the first sign, and doesn't even try because they think that they're already going to fail, I'm not about it. It doesn't align. There's
no great fighter. There's no champion fighter that ever went into it going, I'm never going to get hit. Now, their professional record may be 39-0, but before they were professional, they got knocked down. They got knocked out.
Right.
Just wasn't official, right? But they kept getting back up. You have to go into it knowing I'm going to get hit. And it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, 100%.
If you want to do a bodybuilding show, I'm going to go and this is my first time. I'm not going to win. Right? But everybody has a day one. You start your business venture. You're not going to be a millionaire by the time, within 12 months. You didn't do it for that anyway. Did you really do it for the trophy? Did you really do it for the overall? No, I did it because I wanted to give myself a challenge that seemed so big and so scary. I wanted to give myself an opportunity to go, yes, you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. And I think those of us, like you're mentioning, that are professional athletes, like you fall in love with the process. For me, I fall in love with what it builds in my character. So the process of competing for a show, it's so much more than just the show. It's like when I'm on that stage, it is so much more than what's currently happening. Like people sometimes think that the tears when winning the pro card or the excitement or the tears has to do with like the exact placement at that show. I'm like, no. You have no idea what it took to get to this moment. And that's where the emotion, that's where the passion, that's where it all comes from. It's not from the actual moment on stage. So it is great. It's a little, cherry on top. We all fight for that. Like if you're a true athlete, you want to win. When I go, I want to win. That's the only option in my mind. But I'm not distorted in my reality in the sense that like I go to win, I prepare to win. Winning is the only thing that is on my mind. But I'm fully at peace with whatever happens, especially in our sport, because it's not like I can go in with the fastest time and know that I'm going to win. It's a very subjective sport. So it really builds humility in you because you can go and you can look absolutely incredible, but you can go and get third call out at a pro show, so it's been really cool. I've built a lot of my character and my strength in the show process. And that's, I think, why I fell in love with competing, because it gave me a platform to practice and to build these things that honestly my dad and my upbringing started in me, but these things really helped to cultivate in me as an adult. So,
well, if we don't have goals, we're not going to see progress. Without progress, we lose hope. Without hope, why bother?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And whatever that, I call them mailboxes. Being a triathlete, doing Ironman races. And
I didn't know you did Ironman. My stepmom does them. She's done quite a few now.
It's an out-of-body experience.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are honestly a little dee-dee. I'm kidding.
I mean,
we always joke with her. We're like, you're a little crazy.
when you look back in retrospect and you think, wow, like I still can't believe I did that.
Yeah.
At the same time, you don't ever think about how long that is. You go, that's a race. That's a challenge. But I actually preferred training over racing, because racing is one day. Training is every day.
Wow.
As a young kid, as a cyclist, when I started competing at 13, I would see the guys with the fancy bikes and the separated quads and the nice tan lines and all the fancy gear, and I had the basic bike and the basic stuff. But I found myself winning races because I didn't go into it because I'm here to show. I came into it to go, how good am I?
Oh, cool.
Right?
Like as an assessment.
Because I prefer getting up and grinding it out when nobody's watching. Because that's my test. That's my moment to go, how fast, how far, how hard is all my choice.
Interesting. It's very interesting. I spoke to somebody else and they were asking me the reason why I compete. And he's like, yeah, is it just to assess where you're at? And so that's kind of like what you're saying too. But it's funny because for me, it's not that at all. Like in my head, I already know where I am. I know, because I think I know where I'm going. You know what I mean?
That's the thing. You have a different finish line that show.
Yes. Yeah. That's a
mailbox.
Thing. That's the thing. That show is not the finish line for me. So to me, it's a little negligible. It's an important part of the process, but that's not my goal. So that doesn't really tell me. Like when I've actually achieved my goal, then I think that will tell me.
In the absence of progress, that's where people struggle, because they don't feel like they have a purpose, because they're really not giving themselves a way to see purpose, right? Mailboxes came for me in triathlete. The finish line's way too far away. I can't see. If I try to focus on that, I'll never get there and I'll quit. It's too far.
Wow, okay.
So, but I can get to that mailbox.
Oh, okay. I was about to ask what
I can get to that stop sign. I can get to that car. Cool. Because when it's tangible, every time you take a step, you see it getting closer.
Yeah. Which
means you're not losing hope, which means you're still feeling capable, which means you're still upright, you're still moving forward. Now, I remember, I was 19, working at McDonald's, 5 a.m. to 2, and then worked at a cabinet factory from 5 to midnight.
Wow.
Had no car. I was walking home, and I tripped and I fell. Had that crying, why me moment. And but then I had this moment of where I realized, you know what, I just fell flat on my face, but my head's actually further down the street than my feet are. So I'm still moving forward. Get up, dust yourself off, and keep going.
Wow.
Right? Mm-hmm. It's perspective and how you spend things to give yourself the realization of I'm capable.
Yeah.
Society wants me to believe I'm not capable.
Mm-hmm.
I am capable.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all the, and I try to remind people where they feel like they get really distraught. They lose hope because all of their sense of happiness and everything is leveraged on everything but themselves.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, think of your worst moment. Think of your absolute worst moment, scariest moment, hardest moment. Think of it. You're here today. You got through it, right? Mm-hmm. You made it, which means you're capable of what's next.
1,000%,
you're capable of what's coming. But what you went through prepared you for the next thing that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? When I was in Nigeria, faced some crazy stuff and didn't think I was going to make it home. Wow. I was journaling. I was doing a documentary, and I was talking to the camera, but a few things had happened that I was not going to make it out of there. Wow. And my hope, my faith, had 2 little kids, and my worst fear was happening. Couldn't write anything down, and I wrote one quote down, and then I didn't write anything else the rest of the trip before I got home. And it was months later when I was doing the documentary, editing it all together, and I came across this page. And this quote was the very thing through my childhood and a lot of things I went through and a lot of things we all go through. Mm-hmm. And this quote was the backbone of all the things that I'd come through. And so I had it tattooed down my entire spine. The guy came to my house. My kids were there.
Wow.
They were little, but it was like 5 hours of vomit and sweating and like.
Stop, you vomited?
Going down that entire spine, man. But that's honestly how it should be. When something's going to be permanent on you, you need to feel pain, right?
You're like, you need to vomit.
and honestly, I never see it because it's down my spine.
Yeah.
But that quote is, no matter faith, no matter, your journey, there comes a point when it's still your choice of how you're going to take what you have and do something with it, right? Mm-hmm. No matter what it is. And that quote was, when all else fails, I won't.
So true.
Right? Mm-hmm. And we forget about our own resilience.
Yeah.
We minimize because we don't celebrate the small victories. I'm telling you, every time I got to a mailbox, okay, MD, good job. Now let's focus on the next one.
That's huge. I think a lot of people, especially high performers and achievers, fail to celebrate those small victories. Because when you always expect the best out of yourself, when you always expect the highest standard, you forget hey, that you did this. That's great. You don't even actually recognize it. Or at least for me, I know the way that I was growing up, it took a lot of practice for me to start celebrating my small wins or wins that I didn't even know were wins until people were calling it out and saying, hey, this is really good. And I would say, oh, my goal's over here. What do you mean I can celebrate this? And once I started doing that, I allowed myself to enjoy the process more. And also on the really difficult days of feeling like that, like you said, that goalpost is so far away. It's how do you get out of this mentality of feeling like a failure every single day? A lot of people don't realize high performers and achievers, myself, I've experienced this, feeling like a failure every single day. Mm-hmm. And so if you feel that way, it's a mindset, it's a perspective shift that needs to happen. And like you're saying, something as small as counting your daily wins and actually counting it as a win and as an important step into where you're actually going, that can change your entire momentum. And also you wonder why you feel like you're failing all the time and you're bringing that energy into every single day. I'm a failure. Why am I failing at everything I'm doing? That energy is going to create a very different action and momentum and behavior than the energy that's saying, I got this. Yes, good job. I just won that. Yes, So you have to be your own hype person. You have to hype yourself up along the way to wherever it is that you're going.
How do you do that daily? How do you remind yourself of the things that you're winning at?
That's a great question. I get really hyper-focused on the 24 hours in front of me. And I say, what is in my lane right now in this moment? And what do I need to take action on? And I go and I do that. And once I do that, I did everything I was supposed to do. Maybe some days it's writing an email. Maybe it's some days confirming something. Maybe it's some days creating a program or creating the starting point of it, recording something, doing a podcast. It looks different every day, but every single day within those 24 hours, what is on my plate and how can I make sure that I finish everything on my plate for this day?
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot to happen before that big goalpost comes. And if I don't do today's work, if I'm not executing on this well, how do I expect to ever get there?
Do you ever audit, what I call a personal audit, to look at the things that you're doing, who you're around, and go, are these things aligned in the things I want to accomplish? The big boulders, right? Because that minutia, if we focus on the minutia, we could overlook the fact that some of these things that we're doing is actually getting us off course, right? As a triathlete, you have buoys in the water, like in the ocean. If you don't do a navigation stroke and get your head out of the water and look real quick, you can end up being pulled off by the current.
Oh, wow.
And you're way off course. Now, doing a navigation stroke takes a lot of extra energy, but if you don't do it, you're going to get off course, right? We're reading a book here at the company from Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the analogies was if you take all the minutia and put it in a bucket and you fill the bucket, then you take your big goals, your rocks. And if you try to put all the rocks on top of that in the bucket, it's not going to work. But if you put all your big rocks, your big goals in there first, then pour the minutia on top, it all fits. You're just reprioritizing.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So I know Andy, with this Power 5, I've been doing that for a long time. Because every day, like, I know there's some things I need to get done that are non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Right. Then I have a list of things that are on my radar, and then things that get added to, and then notes. Right. But every day, every time I check off these 5 things, heck yeah, they're number 1 done. Boom, by 9 a.m. Right. Another one. And by the end of the day, you're like, heck yeah, I just crushed today.
Exactly.
And then look at all these additional things I got done.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, prioritization is huge. And for me, I actually have a little dry erase thing on my fridge. And if I ever even feel a moment of overwhelm coming on, I erase whatever's there if there's still something there. And then I write down the things I need to do immediately. It's not what do I need to do today or even by the end of the day. It's what do I need to do right now in this moment, 1, 2, 3. And then I stop and I go execute and I go do it and I come back. What are the next 3 things I need to do? And I just continue to cycle through that.
Man, I wish you and I would have sat and had a talk over coffee about 10 years ago.
Yeah, right?
You know?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to dive into your career.
Okay.
Right? Because it's fascinating to me.
Is it?
It is. And I think it is to about 266,000 people.
Oh, okay.
If that's accurate. Maybe something like that.
Yeah, it's actually, yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
When I checked this morning.
Yeah.
You are an elite athlete with First Form. You've been with them for how long?
Maybe like 8 years now or so.
They've only been around for about 10, 11, no 12.
They were around a little longer.
2009, I think, is when they started.
I think they were around a little longer, but that's when they started to like show face.
And then you're also one of the elite athletes with Alpha Elite.
Alpha Elite, yeah.
With Christian Guzman and that whole thing he's been building.
Yeah, and then also Icon Meals.
Meals.
So I've been with all 3 of them for all 3 of them since I started. They're the first 3 companies that I started with in the beginning and stuck with. There were other, partnerships that I had that I didn't feel were a good fit, but as soon as I found the right fit, I stayed with all 3 of them the whole time. And I love each one of them. They're each one of them are just so important to me. They each feel like different families that I have. And I'm so thankful for them. And it's just really shown how investing in relationships and in people that share your similar core values can be so important and also so helpful in the long term. These people, we've been through moves and breakups and business changes and struggles and all sorts of stuff with each other. So these aren't just like companies I associate myself with. Like these are people that I could call right now and say, I can't tell you, but I need you right now. And they would fly here. Like that's awesome. That's really, really valuable to me.
When was it you started building an audience that you started to look at, this can be something I could potentially monetize?
It was in 2013. I started my Instagram, and back in that day, Instagram was very organic. So if you posted and people saw it and they liked it and commented, they followed, there was no algorithm that like hid your posts or showed your post. It was just organic. If you posted and someone was on their phone, they would see your post. So what was really cool about that is I started sharing just different tips that were helping me in my life. And other people were commenting like, oh my gosh, this is so helpful. Thank you. I was like, of course, like I'll post more. So I would post more. And then I started to really see the traction. And I remember getting like 6,000 followers, right? And my dad was like, 6,000 people follow you? And I was like, yeah, isn't that crazy? Like, they want to see what I want to post. And so I was really excited by that. And at the same time, I was working at Gold's Gym as a trainer, and I worked my butt off at that gym. I mean, I very quickly became, one of the top trainers there. I did all the certifications so that I could get the top level payout there. And I even remember hitting some of the targets that they had for the weekly goals and hitting, the best target for it. And like, it was never enough for them. Like the goals that we did, it just seemed like never enough. And I realized that with the online community that I was building, that I could start doing online training and have the freedom and space to not be tied down to any one location. And I could help people all over the world. So I was like, I'm going to do that. So I started my online training business and my online challenges and personal training, and just kind of, it took off from there. After Instagram, I started my YouTube channel in, I believe, 2014 or so, which really just started as a way for me to document my own prep and share the things that have helped me be successful in competition prep. And then, that evolved into my podcast that I have now, Evolve with Emily Show. And I kind of just evolved with time as different things came up. I think the last thing is TikTok. I'm just now joining TikTok. I was kind of last to, jump on that bandwagon, but I've just had a lot of fun in feeling wherever the next thing is for me. And for me, it's not even the next thing. I'm consistently me, but each platform allows a different version of me to come out, which has been so fun for me. Because with Instagram, there's only a certain amount that you can put out there that people are going to want to watch. Whereas with YouTube, people are there to watch a whole video. So like you can express yourself in that kind of way. And with podcasting, people are literally there to hear what you have to say. And I've always had a lot to say, I think, because I've always, I started out with putting my heart and soul into my captions. And I think that that's probably what drew people, is because when I sat there,
it's like a mini blog.
Yeah, it's like a mini blog. It's almost like people were getting to see into who I am. And if you go way back down my page, you'll see I used to like just really put everything into my captions. And I still put my heart into my captions, but that was my only outlet back then. So you got everything there, and I just, man, I love it. Like I love looking back and seeing my passion like from day one and how that's evolved into the different platforms that I have now. And, now having my EvolveX coaching program and business and mentorship, that's been just so fulfilling to me, because now I've taken my online audience and now I get to work with them personally. And that's like the coolest thing to me, is being able to take what I've learned and see them make that transformation, that mindset shift in their own lives. And that's where I gain my fulfillment from now. So my community is awesome. I've had such a fun time building it. And it just kind of started from me sharing what I was naturally doing.
When you connected with First Form, that was at a time where that was kind of the pinnacle of where there was every supplement brand known to man, including every bro brand being done in a garage.
Yeah.
And everybody was wanting to sling you to, try our product, wear our product, give us a shout out.
Yeah.
But they were just chewing up and spitting out athletes left and right. Right. That was one of the most frustrating things for me from where I was in that side of the industry. Why First Form?
Because of who they are and their core values. I remember when I came across First Form, they had reached out to me on Instagram, and I was like, let me research this brand and see what they're about. So I immediately went to their website and I started reading their mission statement. And part of their mission statement, I still remember reading it, because when I read it, I got chills. I was like, they stole my library, my diary. No, I'm kidding. I didn't really think that, but I read it and I was like, this is me. Like, I just so heavily aligned with who they were. And their mission statement, just basically told the story of being the person that has this unwavering belief in them to believe and go after every single dream that is in their heart and that's in their desire, and to go after it full force, letting nothing stopping them, never quitting, never giving up to resistance or to struggle, but pushing through everything and having a relentless work ethic towards everything that you want in life. And I was like, well, okay, you just described exactly who I am. Thanks for writing my bio, And I was like, yes, it was honestly the easiest yes. And then from there, getting to go visit headquarters and actually meet them, It's like, when you just get around your people and you're like, yes, you guys are my people. You have strong morals, strong ethics, strong character. Loyalty is a huge thing for them. It's a huge thing for me. A lot of their core values are things that I grew up on, and that is just ingrained into me. It's part of my DNA. So to get around a group of people that all actually live by those things is very special, and the culture that they've created there is incredible. And I'm really honored and proud to say that I got to be a part of building that too. I came along before the big Instagram thing and all of that. Like I was there in the building block days, and I say that with pride just because of what they've done as a company has been so incredible and so impactful, not just in the fitness industry and in changing the norm of the fitness industry and that, but also just in the real life. One of the biggest things that they do tons of stuff in the mission world and in giving back to communities, but they have this one called 30 for the Kids, and
Sal.
Sal. That's Sal's one of his main things that he heads on. And it's giving back to the children of Haiti and creating orphanages and food and water and supplies for them. And they actually even did a mission trip over there, which I'm still salty about because they didn't allow the girls to go. Apparently it's not safe, but I'm like, come on, if we're with First Form men, we're going to be the safest that we've ever been.
Looking at those guys, I think you'd be all right.
So girls are still fighting to go next year. But it truly just gives me pride to be a part of a community of people that are creating a global impact. It's not just an impact in one industry, but it's an impact globally. And that's something that I can be really proud of to be a part of.
You look at I remember as they, I told you a little bit, Andy and I used to kind of rap back and forth, back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
What I really enjoyed watching, and I think Andy even said this at some point in some video, because he would vlog, right? And I remember he would driving his truck all the time, and he'd vlog.
Yeah.
And admittedly, we don't pick the people that you think we would pick to be a part of First Form. We're not looking for the person that's shredicated.
Nope.
Right? I mean, you look at Derek Weida, you look at a lot of the people that from the beginning were not the IFBB Pinnacle pros. These were not people that necessarily were well known. Yeah. It was their character.
100%.
And it's still that way. I mean, Tony, what's Tony's last name?
Real World Tactical, that one? Sentiment? I never know how to say his name right. Sorry,
Dude,
Tony.
That guy,
we've known each other since the beginning. Really, I should know how to pronounce.
That guy, so many of his training videos of him leaping over tires and doing jumps and the wall push-ups and everything. And then you, of course, see his tactical stuff, and you're just like, okay, that is like the legitimate G.I. Joe. Like that guy, you would not want this guy storming down your door.
No, not at all. He's on my end of the world A team for sure. He's one of my favorite people, and that's what's cool is I've been able to cultivate such incredible friendships through this brand that we look back and we're like, has it already been 8 years? Has it already been this many years that we've like done life together and, seen each other through all these things. So it's, not just the people at the brand, but also the athletes, like we've really kind of grown up together online and we go through the same things together. And it's just really, really cool because I think for a lot of people, they struggle to find their place or struggle to find a community where they feel like they belong. And I think that that's what this brand has given to a lot of people is like a family, somewhere to belong,
We're at a time where people want to be a part of purpose-driven companies, culture-centric. But in an industry of fitness with supplementation, it is always about product sales, unit sales.
Yeah.
Right? And all these companies that a lot come and gone, some that were top of the line, now almost non-existent. What do you think is the difference as far as First Form that other companies could take example by that you feel from your side of it is the reason why First Form is the dominant brand and the once dominant brands are no longer? What do you think created that shift?
There's a lot of things I could say here, but I think the number one thing and the thing that's been ingrained in us since the very first time was, okay, let's come here and let's talk about the brand. And we think that we're going to get told how to sell the brand or how to market or how to sell. It was never about that. They were like, this is your job. Go out and actually help one person. Don't help 100. Don't help 200,000. Help one person and help one person at a time and actually do whatever it takes to help them. Don't sell them on anything. Don't tell them to get something they don't need. Look at them, listen to them, be coachable, be teachable to the client, listen to their needs and actually help them achieve their goals. And that's it. help people. It's really so much more simple than people think. Like, be a good person, do the right thing, and help one person. That's all the advice you need.
And that takes listening.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So why Alphalete?
So Alphalete, we got together. I was one of their first female athletes ever. And I had asked to run one of my, I did a bikini posing clinic and seminar. So I asked to run it at their gym. They had the first Alphalete gym, which is way back in the day now. Mm-hmm. And Christian said that he was watching me with all of my clients and people that showed up. He was watching me run the program and run the day. And he was just like, wow, like she is who she says she is, you know, and recognized just certain traits in me that I think he wanted in Alphalete and what the brand stood for. It's someone that knows to, you know, learn more, dream more, and be more. That's what an Alphalete is. And so I guess he recognized that in me. So he asked me if I'd want to be a part of the brand. And back then it really wasn't that big of a brand. There wasn't even really, I think there may have been a few women's items, but we look back and the first few women's items are hilarious. Honestly, they are. They're great. Like, everyone starts somewhere, and it just shows you how much you can improve if you'll just start. Right. So anyways, I joined on because I really liked what they stood for. They stood for being a leader and being an example for other people and showing people the way, right? Learn more, be more, do more. It's about who you are. It's about taking action. It's about leading other people through that. And so I think being an Alphalete is more about just being a representative, a strong representative that people can follow. And so that really aligned with who I was. And they're like another whole family. They're kind of like my younger family. You know, It's a younger brand, especially when compared to First Form. But they're awesome. They're like, I feel like they're like my brothers and sisters. Like when I see the other Alphaletes and stuff, but like the ones that, you know, you kind of want to beat up sometimes. No, I'm kidding. We have the best. I have had the best times of my life on some of our Alphalete trips. So it really has been incredible. But what's also been incredible is that they're a very YouTube-based brand. So a lot of the athletes are YouTubers, and there's just something so different about like the OG YouTubers. Yeah. And it's because I think we started the path of like being the most real and the most authentic, because at the end of the day, when you're on Instagram, it's always been about filters. It's always been about presenting your best self. Whereas in a YouTube vlog, you're watching a video of somebody's actual life. So that means you're picking up the camera first thing in the morning. You're like, good morning, guys. Like, you don't look great. You don't look presentable. And so it's that realness and that authenticity. So our audiences as a brand, they know us on such a deeper level than brands that have been previously limited to just Instagram or to just, you know, whatever it was that they were using. So I've really noticed that in that brand, when we would do meetups and things like that, the people that are there are so much more invested into their lives and so much more bought into the brand and into the culture of what it is that we're representing. And so it's been a really cool brand to be a part of. We've gotten to travel the world together, and I'm hoping that we get to bring the traveling back pretty soon here once some the international waves open up.
To be a real influencer, you know, I've been in this space with those relationships for years. There are people that hoard attention that don't really influence moving the needle for a brand, right? They don't really have the metrics to prove.
Yeah.
They've bought likes, they've bought followers, they've bought engagement. But to build it authentically, you have a real loyalty with your followers. And so I can only imagine for you, that's why you have 3 brands, third party that are not yours, that you are somewhat of a face for in your lifestyle that you project, that align with your goals. Where do you think other influencers get it wrong?
Doing things for the instant gratification, like a paycheck, right? So there's been a lot of brands and things that have come across my way or come into my inbox that would have paid me a lot of money to post certain things or, you know, do things that in the short term would have given me a lot of benefit, but it really didn't align. It didn't align with me, didn't align with my core values. And if I did it, it would have been just for the money. And I knew that that was the wrong reason to do something. So I always turn those things down, which I think a lot of people, they just say like, it's an opportunity to make money, why not do it? And so they do it. And what happens is they end up going from one brand and one company to the next, to the next. It's the people that you see constantly hopping on. And then
this is the next, this is the great one.
Yeah. And then they try to come to their audience and say, hey guys, so I'm not with that brand anymore, but I'm with this brand. I've been loving their products. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, the products are literally, they still have the labels or the plastic on them, you know? And so they try to tell them that maybe once or twice, like it's natural to maybe not fit with a brand and choose a different brand. But when it's your pattern to consistently switch brands and switch products, it really just drops the level of trust between the audience and between the influencer. Because the audience is like, I'm sorry, you've told me 3 different proteins are the best protein. Like, how do I trust you? How do I know that that's true? Yeah. You know, and it's funny because I just am who I am, and I've always been like the most authentic version of myself. So like when people come into my inbox and they're like, hey, do you really like the First Form protein? And I'm like, I don't even know how to answer this question. Like I've been drinking this protein for, 7-8 years. How are you asking me that?
Go back and look at my 9,000 posts.
Totally. Like look at my first YouTube vlog ever. If I didn't like it, I would not drink it. I would not order it. Like you're crazy. But at the same time, I empathize with the sense that they are watered down by the other influencers that consistently change and just post for the dollar amount. So I understand why the audience sometimes does that. But to me, it's like, just be who you are. Being who you actually are, whether it's in a relationship, it's in a business deal, it's on social media, is the most freeing thing in the world. There is so much freedom in that. People wonder why they have underlying anxiety, underlying depression, underlying issues like that. And it's because they're having to put up this face. They're trying to keep up this image that isn't really them. And when you really think about it, all of those, ideas or projections that you're trying to have about yourself and in who you are, it's creating all this anxiety. And if you would just actually be who you are, all of that would be gone. You don't have an anxiety problem. You have a problem being who you actually are. You have a problem keeping your word. You have a problem being truthful to yourself and to other people. And if you would actually get yourself in alignment in every sort of way with who you are, how you speak, how you act, how you handle your business, you probably wouldn't have that much anxiety.
That's a mic drop moment. Because the anxiety is, what lie did I tell that I had to remember to be able to project for optics?
Yeah. Right? And it's not to ever diminish people that struggle with anxiety for other reasons.
Sure.
I just think there's a whole group of people that struggle with anxiety.
Self-induced.
Yeah, that is self-induced by things, that are going on in their daily lives that they have control over.
Are you still a personal trainer now?
I mean, yeah. It's so funny. People always ask, what do you do? And some people say yes. It's funny you asked that. I forgot. I actually just trained somebody. It's a celebrity for Netflix's biggest action movie that they're putting out, which is really cool. I'm excited to see that come out. So I was a trainer for a few months then. But like, do I currently train somebody one-on-one inside of a gym right now? No. I do a lot online though.
So I'm going to ask a question that I think a lot of people in this space, a lot of businesses and people in general want to know. If you don't have your typical 9-to-5, you're not doing like your traditional personal training, how are you making income as an influencer for that to be your entrepreneurial venture? How do you produce revenue to support, pay your bill, pay your mortgage of the house you just bought here in Houston? And like, how do you do that as a business?
So I would say as an influencer, the number one thing that you should do is start working on your own thing as soon as possible. Start doing that as soon as possible, because when you have a platform, every single business is going to want you to promote their product, of course. And you're going to get a cut of that, a percentage of that, which is great. And I'm really thankful that within the brands that I'm with, I've been able to create great streams of revenue through each one of them, because I've been with them for so long that those are now a great part of my revenue. But if I were to always count on somebody else for my paycheck, or count on somebody else for my dollar at the end of the day, that's a dangerous place to be in. You're putting all your eggs in one basket. So I would say, if you can align yourself with great companies that you believe in and trust, do that, make your extra income from that, but work on your own thing. I've always had my coaching business since day one. That was the first business that I had, was my online coaching business. And that's evolved and changed. And I've done different formats from, one-on-one coaching to group challenges to mentorship groups to online courses. Like, that coaching business has evolved throughout time. But in addition to that, I've always also had like my sponsors and my affiliate partnerships. So there's multiple ways that you can do it. I think the thing that you want to do is first figure out what you're passionate about. Because if you're not passionate about something and you try to just do it for the dollar, even if it's a great idea, you're not going to be able to stick with it when not if things get really difficult or when you have a low or a down moment, right? When business is not really doing so well. Everybody has those times, especially in like the personal coaching and training business. Oftentimes around like Christmas or the holidays, people aren't really wanting to be on their program as much. So it's a little difficult to retain clientele around that time. So I think it's just important to figure out like what your lane is going to be. And once you find your lane, stay hyper focused and don't get distracted by even good opportunities.
There are coaches for anything everywhere.
Yeah.
A lot of them have, postured in front of a Lambo in a parking lot that's not even theirs to, project their success.
That would be so embarrassing to me. I could never imagine doing that.
One of their buddies happens to work at a private airport and said, hey, this, Falcon 10X just showed up. You can come and take a photo in front of it for the gram, and then project about, buy my course to learn how to be a 9-figure earner like I am, when they don't.
Oh my gosh.
This happens all the time, right?
Yeah, it's actually crazy.
For when it comes to coaching, whatever it may be, what do you recommend people to know how to sift through the BS, to know who's a legitimate person that I can actually learn from, who's worth my time, who's worth my money? How can people help figure that out? Because there's a lot of fakes out there, man.
Yeah. And that's hard because I think in real life, the advice that I would give is to look at the fruit of somebody's life. Look at their relationships, look at their business deals, look at do they have long-term friendships, or are the friendships always cycling out to new friendships? How do they treat people that can give them nothing? You look at the fruit of their life, look at their actions, and that will tell you everything you need to know about how they're probably going to handle you. As far as online, it gets a little more difficult because people are more easily able to portray whatever image it is that they want to portray. I've seen people that their message that they're preaching is being a good person all the time. And yet like in person, they are some of the most horrible people to be around.
Met a few of those.
Yeah. And it's shocking. Like it almost just takes you by surprise because you're like, are you not worried that anyone's going to meet you in person and sift out? But to be honest, I think people, especially now that social media is, we've had it for quite a few years now, I think people are a lot more smart than we give them credit for. And I think they're really being able to sniff out the fakes and the phonies. I think it just takes a little bit of extra effort. I think if you look at one post or a few things at the surface level, you may buy into their stuff. But if you just take a few more seconds, do a little bit more research, go a little bit more into them and into their brand, you'll be able to sift out very quickly who is really about it and who is just talking about it. And then at the end of the day, I always say, don't get coaching from somebody who isn't where you want to be. So if they're not where you want to be, don't get coaching from them.
To not be taken advantage of as an influencer when you have an audience, because you have your macro and your micro influencers, and every business is going to be able to align with one of the two, if not both sometimes. But on the influencer side, a lot of people that are aspiring to be an influencer where, they can, afford to pay rent with it and not have to hustle a 9-to-5 necessarily, or the influence of their side hustle because they have some bigger goals they want to use that money for, right?
Yeah.
What advice, if you could give Emily 10 years ago or 5 years ago, some wisdom about this is what you're going to be headed into. Let me give you a couple of nuggets, young Emily. Right? What would you advise her? And it could also be another group of budding entrepreneurial and influencers. What would you say?
I would say you and who you are is the most valuable thing. Not a number that's attached to you, not your engagement, but who you are and your vision for your life and where you're going is the most valuable thing. There are moments where I recognized that my value was not seen, and it wasn't their responsibility to see my value, but I had to stand up for myself and say, this is not okay with me. I'm out. I'm done. And in doing that, it changed a lot for me. And so I think it's really important to know who you are, know your value before you go into these situations. Because the truth is, a lot of people will try to take you for everything. Like, they will squeeze you for every single ounce that you have, and they will take everything that belongs to you. And some of them will give you nothing back. So it's a really difficult, it's a difficult thing to try and sift through and find out what people are going to do that and what people aren't going to do that, even in the form of friendships. I can't tell you how many people, when I meet them, they look at me differently if they know that I have a large audience. There are times when which to me is not large at all, by the way. Let's just be clear about that. Like, I'm thankful for it, but like, I don't view myself as, oh, I have this large audience. Like, I'm the smallest out of any of my circle. The smallest audience, the smallest business, the smallest everything. And I want it to stay that way. You know, I never want to be top dog. That's not my goal. And if I am, I'm going to find a new room to sit in. But I think it's just really important to know that your value is so much more than your perceived value based on the surface level numbers that you can get, right? Because here's the thing, anybody can get a large social media following, literally anyone. Your social media following, to me, does not determine your worth or your value as a person. For myself, I could not care if somebody has 1 million followers if they don't have good character, if they're not treating people properly, versus somebody that has no following at all, and they're some of the best human beings I've ever met in my life. So I think it's silly that people place so much value on that. Now, when it comes to entrepreneurship and business, there's definitely a business transactional deal that can happen there. You know, if you have value, if you have an audience, you do have value that you can provide to this business. But I say whether you're the business or you're the influencer, you always need to ask, what value am I providing? What can I give? What can I bring to the situation, right? Because it's not always about what am I getting, whether you're the business or the influencer. If you have that kind of mentality of what can I get, you're not going to get very far in life, or you're going to get a lot of instant gratification and no long-term success. I see a lot of people that have that mentality and they actually feel like they're winning in the short term, and it looks like they're winning in the short term. Give it a few years. Give it a few years. I can tell you what, I've passed along so many opportunities that in the moment would have seemed really shiny and bright, but I knew that that's not where my long-term was. So I passed on it. And now I look back and I'm so glad that I did, because I preserved my integrity. I preserved my trust with my audience. And I think that when you're thinking about business deals as an influencer, you really have to consider your audience. You got to think of your audience as your sister, as your mom, as your dad, as your brother, and think, if they were in the room with me, could I in good faith say, yes, you should spend your hard-earned money that I saw you work for, you should spend it on this. If you can't honestly say that, you should never align yourself with that company or that brand. So I think there's a lot of things to take into consideration. To me, it's a huge responsibility. You know, it's not just, it's not this like, I feel like, and maybe it makes me a bad business person, I don't know, but it's not such a black and white deal for me. It's not, I have this, give me this, and I'll do this. Absolutely not. Like, there's so much more that goes into these decisions than people realize. You know, does it fit my core values? Is it something that I truly believe I can recommend to someone who I feel like is a sister? Or, you know, like my audience to me is not just random people online. These are, honestly, I always brag. I'm like, I think my audience is the best. They really are. They are some of the best, most incredible individuals. I started this entry-level mentorship where pretty much anyone can join on. It's for less than the price of a cup of coffee. And they join on, and I'm on video talking to these individuals, hearing what they're struggling through in their life, hearing their goals, hearing their aspirations. And I'm inspired by these people. I'm inspired by their struggle. And so I think I've just created a lot of moments of connection with my audience to where they're not just a number to me. Like, they're human beings that I actually really care about, that I cannot wait to see in person. I can't wait to meet in person one day. So I think that's why when it comes to me, I do things a little differently, because I don't just see it as just this blanket business deal. You know, I see it as like, I'm like protective of my audience, you know? I'm like, hold up. If you as a business want to get to my audience and you want access to my people, you're going to talk to me first, and you're going to tell me who you are, tell me what you're about. Let me see your inner workings. Let me see your customer service. I left a company once because I started getting stories about their customer service. and I was appalled by the lack of customer service and just the way that they were operating, and that wasn't okay with me. So I left that company, and that's how strong I feel in just where I stand on being an influencer and aligning myself with a brand. Which, by the way, I hate the word influencer. Can we just say that?
Yeah.
I get it. Like, I understand why people like label it that way, but it's really not about influence to me. It's about impact. You know, what kind of impact can I make, and how am I influencing people's actions, right? I don't just want to influence their minds into manipulating them into something, manipulating them into spending money or into doing this or that, which is just, that's a whole nother podcast, to be honest, if we want.
Well, and you know, manipulation and leadership, oftentimes it can be cloudy. But the difference that I've seen is that manipulation, you drive people to do what benefits you.
Yeah.
Leadership is guiding people in what's going to benefit the greater good in them.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Right? What's the meme is, it looks like the old Egyptian, like when they're pulling logs and boss is cracking the whip,
Yep.
leader is the one in the front pulling with them. Right?
That's why it's evolve with Emily. It's always been so important to me to show people and tell people, I'm not, you know, here and you're here. I'm shoulder to shoulder with you. Let's go. Like, go with me. Like, let's go do this thing together.
YouTube, Instagram, social media. Is there a point where some days you're just like, I don't have it in me to give anything today. I don't want to be in front of the camera. I want to be a little private today.
Yes.
Or maybe for the next week, or maybe a sabbatical month. Do you deal with that?
Yeah, I had a day like that yesterday, actually.
Really?
I did, yeah.
You feel like that green light is just on too much?
No, because I think I'm good about shutting it off. Yeah, so I don't feel that it's on too much, because if I ever even get to that point, turn it off. And you know what's really cool about having done this for so long? I used to feel really guilty when I wouldn't show up to social media. You know, yesterday I had a day that honestly started out really difficult for me, and I didn't want to show up for anything. I didn't want to show up for my work. I was really close to like calling it for the day and being like, it's one of those days I need to check out. But I was like, you know what? I really need to show up.
You need to lean in.
I made that decision that I needed to lean in. Yeah. And so I took that time away from social media. I didn't do any video work. I didn't show up on that way. And I used to feel guilty for that, because I felt like I wasn't producing. I felt like I wasn't helping people in any way. But what's really cool about having done this for years now is all of a sudden it always happens this way. DM after DM. Hey, I just listened to your episode 32, like, you know, years ago on this, and it completely changed my mindset today. Thank you. Someone commenting on my YouTube video. This helped me, you know, get past this thing that I was working through. Someone sharing, you know, all these things with me. And it's like, I'm reaping the harvest of all the seeds that I planted for years. So it's like, even if I have an off day right now, there's still so much seed going out. I never realized like the impact that a video that I made years ago could have today. So it's almost like I've done so much planting that even on days when I feel like I'm not at my best and I can't perform at my best, there's still work that's being done, which is really cool, because it just shows you how right now in the moment, all the stuff that you're working on is so important. It can have lasting impact and lasting value. So to never take it for granted when you're posting a video, and maybe it's just like a happy, positive video that makes someone smile. Like, that can go such a long way for somebody that is having a really difficult day. You know, for some people, they don't need everything to change in their life, but if just 1% of their life would change, 1% of their day would change, it would make all the difference in the world.
Jason, that's the very thing that's on your wall.
Is it? Yeah, that's something that I live my life by, because I've been that person. I've been that person where if it was just 0.01 could be different, I could hold on. I could get through it. And that's all I needed. So that's kind of what I try to pass along. And I try to remind myself, as somebody who does expect nothing but excellence from myself. I can be really hard on myself sometimes. I can feel like I didn't do anything, like nothing I'm doing matters or is making an impact. And I'm like, hold on. Do I feel that maybe something I did today, or maybe something that's already public, that's I've already posted, that it could make a 0.01% of a difference? Honestly, yeah. And I'm like, okay.
everybody, you can't control how people put you on a pedestal. They put you in
Yeah.
a certain way in their life.
Yeah.
And I know that you've met people along the way that have been following you.
Yeah.
And I know that can be, you kind of feel like Ricky Bobby, not knowing what to do with your hands in that moment. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do, right?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of overwhelming when you hear people say what an impact you made in their life because you don't know them, but they feel like they know you like the back. They feel like you are their best friend.
Yeah.
Right? How do you take that moment in a split second and be able to deliver to somebody something that's authentic, yet you don't really know much about them? How do you give that so that when they walk away, they're like, I just met my best friend?
I ask them questions and I learn about them, and then I empower them for wherever it is that they're at. That's it.
Has somebody come up to you in the most random, wouldn't even expect somebody to recognize you, to see you?
Yes.
Where was that?
One was the Venice Beach boardwalk, but it was just somebody that did not look like my audience. Like, I think I kind of know in my head, or I think that I know in my head of who, my audience is. It was just like very left field. And I was like, oh, okay.
This is happening.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Random, but like in the middle of the street walking in LA, and someone from a car being like, "You're Emily Hayden." And I was like,
yes, I am.
It's, I don't know. It's airports, restaurants, random. I never expect it though. And I never, to me, I always say that like social media fame is fake fame. I don't think that it's like real fame, so to speak. It's not to discount it. It's just, I think some people get an ego about it, or they feel super important by it. I don't feel important by people knowing who I am. I do feel good if they share that something that I've shared has helped them in their lives to make an actual change in their lives. I don't care if everyone in the world knows who I am, if I'm not like impacting their life in a positive way. And at the same time, if only 10 people knew who I was, but their lives were drastically changing all the time, that's everything to me. Everything. Like, I get my most amount of fulfillment out of helping people walk through their own life's journey and path, and giving them hope, giving them encouragement, speaking life into them, and then watching their life actually change. Like, it's really just such a cool thing.
You grew up in Houston, right?
I did.
Why did you take the leap to California?
Sparked
that, like, where was that idea? And then what sparked it to actually take action? Because a lot of people, such a different culture, different environment, the other end of the country, and to be young and to go, I'm going to leave home and I'm going to go do this. Like, why California? Why do that? What was your goal? What was your purpose?
So at the time I was competing, and I'd booked a really important photo shoot. So I went out there for the photo shoot, and we were working with a photographer that worked with like Oxygen magazine and a bunch of the magazines that had always been a goal of mine to be in. And so we did that photo shoot. It went great. And I remember being there, and it was so beautiful, like just the ocean and the mountains and the weather and the sunshine, the palm trees. And I fell in love with it. I was like, wow, people get to live their life here. Like, that is so incredible. I want to live here one day, and it was just kind of like a thought. And then I actually booked the Oxygen magazine gig. I remember getting that gig. I was in the kitchen when I got the phone call, like really late at night. It was like at 10 p.m. And they called me and they were like, hey, you fit exactly what we're looking for. Can you be on a flight tomorrow morning? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And like played it totally cool on the phone, hang up the phone and just like burst into tears, because that was such a goal of mine, a dream of mine. Like, it was always a dream, to be able to be a fitness, health, women's influencer inside of a magazine. Like, I always kind of knew that my life path would take me in a path that would be a representative for women, and to actually get to do that was really cool. So I went out there for that shoot, and then it's like all these opportunities started rising up. And I was like, I made a joke. I was like, it would just be less expensive at this point to live there than it would be to keep flying out there, And I remember my dad at that point was like, why don't you? And I was like, really? He was like, yeah. And I really had to sit with myself and ask myself, what's the reality of this situation? Because the truth is, California's a lot more expensive than Texas. There's a lot of things that come with it. I didn't really know anyone out there. But I just really decided that even if I went out there and failed, I'd be okay with that. So I made the decision that I'm going to go out there, I'm going to sign a year lease, and I'm going to give it hell. I'm going to give it everything that I have. And if I fail, I'll come back with $0 in my bank account. And after a year, I will say that I tried it. It was hopefully a great ride, and I'll start new. I'll start fresh. I'll figure it out. I've always had the I'll figure it out mentality. So I went out there, and I was out there for 7 years, and I loved it. And I didn't ever really see myself leaving. And it wasn't really until a lot of, 2020 and a lot of the life things that changed in that time period until I decided that I wanted to be home and be with my family. So it was a scary leap that I took, but I felt the fear. I knew what was coming, and I was like, you know what? Even if I fail, it's worth it. I would rather fail 1,000 times trying something that excites me and that gives me fear with the hope that it might work out than to never try something at all. Because what's the other option? You just sit there and wonder for the rest of your life, what if? What if I had done that? Where would my life have gone? Now I think about, man, what if I hadn't? What if I hadn't?
Drastically different life path.
Drastically different life.
What was one of the biggest impacts that really was a significant influence into your life by moving out to California?
What was a significant moment?
Mm-hmm.
I think that things happen for a reason. And I think some people think that if one way doesn't work out, then that was never meant for them, right? Mm-hmm. I don't really believe that way. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes we are meant for a season of our lives to go down a certain path because of what it's going to build in us. And then we can bring that back with us into wherever it is that we're headed next. But I specifically remember on the way to California, we drove there. Our car broke down. We were stranded on the side of the road for like 12 hours. I literally did my workout because I was in prep. I did my workout on the side of the highway. I have a video of it, actually. It's hilarious. Body weight workout on the side of the highway. And then I remember we were just so tired and so exhausted. And as we're driving, I just felt this like fear again of like, oh my gosh, this is such a huge decision. Like, is this the right decision? And then I got a text. And guess what? It was another magazine that said, can you be in California on Monday? And I said, I'm literally driving there right now. Yes, I can. And to me, that was just like a little like present along the way to say like, yes, that was my little like guidance, right? I think you can, people look for like signs or, things that are guiding them along their path. And I think that they're always there. I think we always have little signs that are along the way that to say like, yes, this is the right direction that you're going in. And if you're aware enough, you're not just going to write it off as a coincidence, but you're going to recognize it and say, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be for right now. So for me, that was really impactful because it just showed me how when you take that leap of faith, when you go towards the thing that's scary, there are good things on the other end of that. And so you just have to be courageous enough in that moment to face the fear and do it anyways. And then recognize when you're getting that confirmation along the way that like, yes, this is where you're meant to be.
I think there are signs that can be justified on either side. It's the one that we want to believe in. And it's the one that we're going to go, I would be proud of this one. Or I don't want to face what I would have to face because it would be too difficult, right? Because you could have found a number of reasons to go, no, because of this and this and this probably isn't, we need to go back.
Oh yeah, tons of
you could have found a lot of those.
Tons of extended family put all those on our faces, They're like, sorry, so you don't have a job lined up? So you don't have X, Y, and Z? And we're like, no, we really don't have any plan. Like we're just going.
There's a book called The War of Art.
Oh yeah.
And have you read it?
No, I haven't, but
okay.
It's on my list.
It boil it down. A lot of people, especially in LA, everybody wants to be a famous actor. Everybody wants to be a movie star. But there's a lot of parts that people will not go audition for because they're afraid. They still go to the one job. But they always have a reason why I wasn't really good for that part anyway. There's a justification because they're not willing to really go all in.
Oh, interesting. It's
right?
Such a different mindset. Yeah.
Because it's a war. Are you really committed? If you are committed, your actions have to match your intent. Without you can justify anything. Still doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But you're going to find what you really do believe in you, that thing that tugs at you, that thing that will wake you up at night, that thing that's always here. getting a little bit of your attention and you can't shut it up. It's that one thing that at some point you're either going to go that direction, regardless. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of people end up looking for validation or reasons to do something different from people that have done nothing.
Wow.
And that's why they don't.
Wow.
Because those people are giving you, they're projecting on you their fears.
Yeah, 100%.
Why are you going to go do that? They're basically saying, I never did it. Why should you?
Yeah, that's why it's important not to listen to anyone else when you're making those life decisions. Even really well-intentioned people can give you bad advice for you and your life path. A lot of people aren't taking into consideration what's right for your life path. Like you said, they're giving advice from their life path and experience. So they're saying, well, this wasn't good for me, so it's not good for you. No. You're an individual. We have to look at you and see, where you're going and where your vision is and where your heart is. And I think that it's just important to really qualify what experience and advice you listen to.
The conversations at a table of losers, it's much different than from a table of champions.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to really listen to?
Easy answer.
Everybody wants to sit at the table with Kobe and Shaq and Jordan, but it's way easier to sit at the table with the guys that lost.
Yeah.
Because you can justify that.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
I could have been great, but this one thing happened. Right? You ever hear that from the table of champions? All you hear about is what they had to do to overcome.
Yeah.
Not what they use as an excuse to quit.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Which is why I think it's so important who you align yourself with, right? Because it says the 5 people that you're around the most. If you ever want to see into your future, into your relational future, your financial future, your business future, look at the 5 people that you hang out with the most, that have the most say into your life. And that's probably where your life is headed.
For the longest time, as humans, physically, we could not break the 4-minute mile, right? Couldn't be done. The day that it was done, within 60 days, 30 more people broke it.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Until we realize there's a higher standard we can actually accomplish and reach for, we think that where we're headed, that's it. We have to find people that have done more. We have to surround ourselves with people that are wanting more, that are looking for more, because that causes us to elevate our standard. I remember as a triathlete, I wanted to become a much better swimmer. I had to literally go to the high school to get taught by the swim coach because they were fast swimmers. Swimming for me was going to get a ski. It was not competitive.
Yeah.
Running, cycling was the same thing. I had to ride with guys that were much faster than me because that showed me what my potential was.
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
run, I had to run with guys that were way faster than me, because if I ran with a group of the everyday guys, I never would have gotten faster because I didn't have a reason to be. When you're the slow guy in the group, like you said, you're the one in the group that has the lowest of all of these metrics. You see these people that have much higher accomplishments, much higher goalposts that they've reached. It allows you to see what your potential is.
Oh, absolutely.
It shows you the gap of effort, right? I loved, one of the reasons I did like racing was I was going to be able to see what my gap was. How much more work do I have to put in?
That's
the
cool.
guy beat me by a wheel length. Okay. I know where I need to work. I have a guy twice my age running, twice my speed. I really see the level of work I need to put in, right? As he's saying, have a good race.
Right. And
because it shows you our potential, but are we willing to lean in and put in the work to actually taste it?
And think about the guy that broke that mile. No one had to show him. He believed.
And how many people said it couldn't be done?
So I think it's important never to place a cap on yourself. Like in my belief and in my potential, there is no cap. I don't need anyone else to tell me or show me. You know what I mean? Like I don't limit myself in that way. I mean, and maybe it's a hopeful or an optimistic way of thinking, but I truly think that there's no limit.
If you feel like there's no limit, then the things that you can accomplish are limitless.
Absolutely.
It's just the resources that you need to have to align to how you're going to get. I hate the word try because to me with try, there's always a cop out.
Yeah, it's do or don't.
You're either going to get that promotion and you're going to do everything possible to earn it, or you're not.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who got this and who got that. It matters, what did you do?
Yeah.
In the face of everything that could have been a reason to not, what did you do?
Yeah. And it's
did you believe in yourself enough?
Mm-hmm. And it's either you're going to get it, or for me, the way I think about it is not yet. To me, there is no.
Just a not yet.
Yeah, just a not yet. There's a difference in going after something and realizing at a certain point that it's not your lane and changing your lane. That's different. But when you're in your lane, it's always a not yet. It's never a no.
I've known you for a long time, but I've learned a lot about you today. What do you think is something that people misunderstand about Emily Hayden that they see?
That's a really good question. I know what it is. I think people, and this is, a cliche quote, I think, but I think that they mistake my kindness for weakness. They think that because I choose to live from a state of gratitude and I focus on being loving and spreading love and all of that, that I won't stand firm, or that I won't stand up, or that I won't speak my mind, or that I won't be firm in my foundation. And so I think a lot of people have this mixed perception of me that I'm just this like nice little, when in reality, like, I'm a warrior, and I will go to war for myself and those that I love and what I believe in and what I believe is right. And so while it's kind of like this balance of, I believe that the first action and thing that we should do is always love, but I believe in love and guns. Love and the Second Amendment. I've seen you
shoot some guns.
I love shooting.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. No, just really just to say, I've always been a protector at heart. So I'm somebody that, like, I remember in middle school, these girls were picking on this girl that was in their grade, and she was crying, and I was like, oh, hell no. And I went and I found them and confronted them all in the bathroom. And to be honest, my plan in my head was a lot different. All I had to do was say a few words, and they were very convinced of apologizing. And they actually ended up becoming real friends, because they were girls who were able to take personal responsibility and say, what you're saying is true. We were being complete assholes. Like, this is wrong. They fixed their wrong, and they actually had a great friendship. Anyways, a long story to say that I just fully believe in standing up for what is right, and I'm not a pushover. I'll stand up for myself. I'll stand up for the people that I love, and I have no problem speaking my mind too, which in this day and age is not very, it's kind of frowned upon if you don't believe in the major mainstream message of what's going on. If you believe differently, if you have a different opinion, it's frowned upon. It's shunned. They don't want you to share your opinion. They only want to share what's popular. And I've never been about what's popular. I've been about what's right. Like, what's right is what's right, and it's not about going with the mainstream narrative. So I think when you do that, it can provide for a lot of different conversations to come up, good and bad. But I think at the end of the day, if you just stand firm and always do what you believe is right for you as an individual, and you respect other people and what they believe is right for them, then that's all you can do.
Let me ask your opinion on something.
Okay.
So, here in Texas, they just passed a law where anybody can now carry a weapon. What's your thought on that?
Expand on it.
Well, you don't have to have a permit. So you can go get a gun and carry it. Walk around.
Interesting. I didn't know this. Well,
and it's been they have tried to pass it for a long time. Never got any attention through Texas Congress until this year. And,
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So previously you had to have a permit to get a gun.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No comment. So you don't have to have a background check or anything?
To buy the gun, yes. But
Okay.
to carry it around, you don't have to have a concealed weapons permit anymore. Isn't that right, Jason? Yeah.
Oh, so the only difference now is you can own the gun, but you don't have to have a permit to have it on you.
That's correct.
Like a concealed carry. You don't have to have
Right.
okay. So the concealed carry is out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care, because guess what? Listen, you're going to tell someone that is already breaking the law, I'm sorry, where's your permit? No, they're going to continue to break the law. So I think that the good people, it's going to get more guns in their hands. The bad guys are going to get guns in their hands regardless of what permit you require or not. So I think that the good guys are going to get more guns in their hands. And I feel much better with 30 men that know what they're doing, are trained, are good moral people with guns on them, than I do with no one with guns, but yet the bad guy having guns. Don't feel comfortable with that.
You're impressing laws on people that are already law-abiding,
right?
That don't really affect those that are criminals anyway.
That's the thing. It's funny. Right? I was in church a while back, and it was in Texas, and it's so bad. I'd like sometimes have these thoughts when I'm in big crowds like that, whether it's a church or it's a movie theater. I just kind of think of like, okay, I look at the exits. I'm always thinking like kind of worst case scenario. And it's so funny because in California, I always felt unsettled. I always had anxiety when I was in places like that. And it was in Texas, I was in church, and I look around, I was like, I'm good. There's at least 50 guns in this room, and like, there are these like strong Texas men. I literally looked around and laughed. I was like, I'm definitely good. I love Texas for that reason.
You made a couple of comments that I think pose an interesting topic. We're in such a cancel culture. Mm-hmm. We're also in such a culture right now that is really focused on equality. And it seems to be minimizing masculinity, femininity.
I love this conversation.
In a pretty significant way, to where you're no longer now allowed to be hyper masculine or hyper feminine. Everybody now has to be neutral, right? To be accepted.
Right.
And so it's causing this skewed from what I gather. And I would love your opinion on this, because it sees where the masculine men are being told you're too much. The feminine women, you're too less. You need to be a man. You need to operate like a man. Men, you need to be sensitive like a woman. You almost like the roles need to be reversed for now it to be considered socially correct. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, this is great. And I love this conversation. It's something that has been on my heart a lot recently. And I think if you get pulled into the mainstream message of what's going on, and you don't sit back and take a second to really ask yourself like what you believe and where you stand on it, you can get, I see a lot of people getting manipulated by the messaging, because at a surface level, maybe it logically makes sense to some people, I'm not sure. But I think that when we look at nature, we have really good examples of the rhythm of life, of the process of life. And I think nature is such a great opportunity to learn. And I think when it comes to the masculine and the feminine, there is something so beautiful and so powerful about seeing somebody fully in their masculine pairing with somebody fully in their feminine, and that coming together, and it works for a reason. And I think that structure is so important, especially within the family, and having children that are being able to be raised with people that have both, because I think that creation and people in general and nature, there's a reason why there's male and female. There's a reason why there's masculine and feminine. And I think that until maybe you see a good example of that working properly, maybe you don't understand it. Maybe you're not able to have that same perspective. But for me, I even see how in the women's, there's this like independent women movement happening, right? And I'm a very independent woman. I have my own business. I have my house in Texas. I have my own business. I'm single. I love, being an independent woman. It's great. But I cannot wait for the day that I get to be all that is woman to my man. I will submit in a heartbeat to the right man. And submission is not weakness. Submission is me fully understanding and being confident in my role as a woman. As a woman, I can do something that a man can never do. I can fulfill my role fully, and I'm the only one that can do it the way that I can do it. And I need and want a man to do that for themselves and do that in our relationship as well. So I think it's really beautiful. It's like the sound of a symphony when you have those two forces come together, and what they can create together can be something so much more powerful than what can be created alone. So I think that the distortion of masculine and feminine, the distortion of family, in general, the distortion of gender even, is something that's headed down towards a path that was never meant for us as humans or as a society. And I think it's destructive. I think it's destructive to people and to their natural origin of how we were made. I saw a video the other day of this elementary kid and their parents encouraging them and saying, here, tell everybody how you identify. And the little boy said, I want everybody to know that I am now a girl. And everyone cheered for him. And I see that happening, and it breaks my heart, because children should be protected before anything. Children are so impressionable. They don't even know who they are. They haven't had an opportunity to live life yet. They are so precious and they're so moldable that you can mold them into whatever it is that you want. You're telling me that a small child has decided that now he's going to be a female for the rest of his life, and you're telling me that that's not the result of manipulation and of what you're surrounding him by and the messaging that you're giving him. I just think that I think that it's wrong. I think it's manipulating the most precious thing. You know, when I look and I see children out there, there's nothing more that I want than to protect their innocence. And I think that the innocence in, you know, childhood and in all of these things is really being distorted. And my personal belief is that there's just an evil agenda at the end of the day. I think there is dark and I think that there is light in the world. And I think that the darkness is furthering its agenda in all these different manifestations, whether it's in the business, it's in the family, it's in social media, it's in what seems normal to other people. It's not. I think that the things that are happening are just a very clear depiction of light and dark. I don't think there's in between. I don't think that there's gray. I think there's light and there's darkness. There's a yes and there's a no. And I think there's a wrong and there's a right. And I think that the more that we try to convince everybody that there's this gray area, it's not actually gray. It's dark. And even though on the surface level it looks gray, on the surface level it looks like it's okay. When you get in deep enough, when you realize how dark it is, you're going to wish for the light. And so I think it's important that, obviously I feel very strong on this subject matter. I think it's important more than ever to be the light. And so I don't spend my time speaking out on these things in the sense of tearing them down for what they believe.
Right.
I understand that there are people that just as strongly as I believe about this, they believe about that. And I respect that. I just choose to use my voice, my platform, my breath of life as if it were my last breath of the day to spread the light. Because I think that light wins every single time. Maybe not all the small battles, but light's going to win the war. And so I think it's important to spread the light as often and as much as you possibly can. And that's why a lot of people, when they feel strongly about things, they just go against attacking the other side. And I'm like, you're wasting all of your precious energy. If this was your last day on earth, you should spend every single waking moment that you can to spread as much light as you possibly can. Because what happens when you turn on the light? Darkness cannot exist. Mm-hmm. And that is my goal, is for the darkness to not exist anymore.
Where we are with this cancel culture and the drive for equality, sometimes wonder, and I know this has been happening for quite some time, but it certainly seems like to be a result of our initial period of the participation trophy, to mitigate pain, mm-hmm. to remove pain so you don't feel the pain of loss by not being a winner. So we're going to treat everybody as if they won. We're going to reward you with the trophy as if you won so that you don't feel pain.
Yeah.
When there's supposed to be winners and there's supposed to be losers. Winners are the reward of putting in more effort mm-hmm. and more work and mm-hmm. being hungrier than the guy next to you.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Why are we trying to equalize all this for people? Is it because we become that soft?
Do you like history?
Love history.
Do you like psychology?
Love psychology.
Think about, how do you shape a society into what you want it to be? Fear, manipulation, control, mm-hmm. mass media messages that you want everybody to believe. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a much deeper issue than just the schools handing out participation trophies. I think that that's a part of it, but I think that we are weakening our society and, call it what you want it, but I think that it's on purpose. Because think about if we can have the next generation of people come up that are weak in their mind. They don't know failure. They don't know defeat. They don't know what it's like to stand and to be different than other people. They don't know what it's like to stand for their opinion, which is different than the main opinion of everybody that they're around. If they don't have that strong character and those morals, and then those people grow up and now those people become the next generation, those people are much more manipulated than somebody that says, I'm sorry, something doesn't seem right here. And they speak out on it and they call it out and they speak their truth. So I think what's going on is just much deeper than what people give it credit for. And I see it as, I try to always take this perspective of not looking at it at the surface level right here, but getting up higher and then looking down on the overall picture of what's happening. And if you can really connect the dots between everything that's happening in the world, it's so vitally clear. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. That's why I asked if you like history. If you look at the history of what's happened in other cultures and other societies, what we're experiencing right now is not new. It's not something that is, it's just not new. Like, go read some history books and you'll very quickly find out that other cultures and societies have experienced the beginnings of what we're experiencing right now.
It's an oppressive, soul-sucking agenda that occurs. Mm-hmm. And those that were bold enough to stand up and say this is not right were the ones that were also willing to swing a sword for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? We said this before. We're at a time where I feel like we're going to have to fight for what we believe to be right and our freedoms again.
Yeah.
We haven't had that as a society, really.
Yeah.
We've had wars that we fought elsewhere, but it seems like we've had such a long-standing naivety mm-hmm. to our freedoms here. Yeah. And, our soldiers and those that go to other countries realize it's much different here in our bubble in the United States.
Yeah.
And we have taken that for granted. We've never had to fight a war on our own soil against anyone other than ourselves since the Civil War. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. Everything else has been abroad. We've fought for the freedoms of others. We've fought to defend those that could not defend themselves. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to our country, we've been naive to think that the United States is for the greater good. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
But now it's those that have a voice and those that see the truth beyond the fog mm-hmm. they're being canceled. Right?
Oh yeah, we've seen a lot of that happening.
But those voices are getting louder as they're starting to come together.
Mm-hmm. Because right? we have power in numbers, and mm-hmm. we have to remember that. Like, we're stronger together, and you have to just raise your awareness, because certain people, we know that we're stronger together, but so do the people that are trying to cause division. Mm-hmm. So you always have to ask yourself, what is the current subject that is at matter here, and what is it doing? Because oftentimes it's always dividing, whether it's gender, it's race, it's finances, it's where you're from, whatever. All of these things, they seem maybe not connected, but they are. They seem like different issues, but they're all having the same thing, which is division, which is why even when I feel strongly on my opinion on something, I don't choose to participate in the divisive acts. Instead, I choose to spread what I believe is light. And that's why I want to encourage other people to do that for themselves, even if their opinion is completely opposite from me. Don't choose division. Don't choose to participate in that. I think if there's one message that people could get from this little section of the podcast, it would just be that no matter where you stand on an issue, actively look for the ways that they are trying to cause division and choose not to participate in that. Instead, choose to respect each other's differences and stand for what you believe is right and shake each other's hand at the end of the day. But division is not something that's ever going to have a good outcome.
One of the greatest things you learn in debate, which I was in high school, is you have to know how to properly debate. To defend your own position is also understand theirs.
Yes.
Because you also have to know the right questions to even get the other side to even question their own belief. Mm. How many people barely even know their own position that they say they believe in, let alone the other side?
Yeah.
Because most people don't want to investigate the other side in fear that maybe the other side is actually right and they could be wrong. But until you honestly do the research and really learn why you believe what you believe first and foremost, and is it based on truth or is it based on narrative that you were just told to believe? Mm-hmm. And is it also just because it's popular?
Right.
And then why does the other side believe what they believe? Why are they so passionate about what they believe to the point that they're willing to be as vocal and criticized for it? Mm. When I was in Nigeria, they are passionate about their beliefs, incredibly passionate.
That's cool.
As a society here, we really don't have such a passionate, deeply rooted belief in anything. So many people are so easily wavered because their circle now just changed their opinion. Now their boat's going to go the other direction because they never really believed in the first place.
I notice that in groups of people. I actually noticed that it's geographical too. Like in California, the mass majority, I would say, are very, they're jumping from one thing to the next, or maybe they're just very, very loose in their beliefs and they kind of believe everything but nothing at the same time, whereas I noticed in Texas, I mean, it's a drastic difference. Like you come here and people, they actually will say what they believe and, they stand firm in that. And it's not to categorize everybody in each state to those things, but it's just the mass of what I've experienced in my experience of living in both places. And it's really nice to, no matter what they believe, to see them like really stand up for that. I'm like, wow, that's nice that you have an opinion and you have a stance on something. And I think what you were saying about how people sometimes don't even know what they believe or why they believe, I think we all go through this like maturing phase, right? Where you have to start asking yourself, why do I believe what I believe? And some people are never taught to go through that phase for themselves. Think about it in the sense of religion, right? Somebody who grows up in a church where they go to church their whole life and it's just normal to them. And then they get to an age where they're like, hold on, do I believe this though? Is this my belief and my experience, or is this somebody else's belief and somebody else's experience?
You can almost feel like you're doing something wrong, though, because it came from your most impressionable time.
Right, exactly. So I think it's important for everybody at some point to really qualify why it is that they have certain stance and beliefs on things, and then to do their own research and go on their own journey of figuring it out for themselves. I did that in my own faith journey. I had to ask myself, why do I believe in God and why do I believe this and that? And I was like, I can't subscribe to something that's not true for me. So I need to go down this path of figuring it out for myself. And now my belief and my stance comes from my own actual experience and through relationship with God. And so now people are like, oh, I'm surprised you're so open about it. I'm like, it's just so real to me. It's just as real as the person next to me. And that's why I can speak on it, because it's not this thing that I'm subscribing to. It's not this fake thing. It's not this just belief or narrative that somebody else told me. It's my own personal experience. And that's why it's so strong for me. And so I think whatever issue it is in life, it's something that you have to really like sit with yourself and figure out if this is true for you, or if it's something that you've been fed through who you follow on social media, the news channels that you watch, the circles that you're in, your very well-meaning family. All these things play into what we think, what we believe, how we act. And so I think it's important to really gain that individual self back again. I think along with trying to, the equal movement and trying to make everybody the same, I think a lot of people are losing their individuality and losing their own voice. And so I think just kind of shutting off the noise for a second and getting really quiet and having that moment alone and having alone time to sit with these really big issues with yourself and to say, like, am I believing this because I, as a person, as an individual, believe this? Or am I believing it because my friend group believes it? Am I believing it because the people I follow on social media believe it? And I think if you can really allow that time and space for yourself to sit with those hard questions, you can get more into the root of who you are. And some people will realize that they spent their whole life spewing this narrative, regurgitating this narrative, for lack of better words, realizing that that's actually not a part of their values and of who they are as a person. And it takes a lot of ability to take personal responsibility and personal ownership to be able to say, you know what, I'm not about this. I'm actually not about this. And this is who I actually am. So I think if people are struggling to figure out where they stand, turn off all the noise. Get off social media, turn your TV off, and go sit in nature and go answer these questions for yourself, and you'll have some more clarity.
Peel some layers back. Do a self-audit, right?
100%.
Why are my behaviors the way that they are? Why do I react the way that I do? Why do I see things the way that I see things? Where did this all get rooted from? Now do I believe it? Mm-hmm. Now do I believe this to be the person that I am, that I choose to be?
Yeah.
Right? Because we can completely change our personalities.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I've had to do it when I was younger. I was caught up in conditions, right? Mm-hmm. And I had to just own, because I certainly didn't like my life where it was at that time, but I didn't realize I was the one causing it.
I always say, if you look around and you don't like your life, you don't like your relationships, your finances, your business, just everything, you're like, wow, like this is horrible. Some people get really stuck in that message that their mind is giving them. Their mind is telling them, this life for me does not work. It doesn't mean that life period for you doesn't work. It means life as you know it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And guess what? Life is a result of the seeds that you plant, whether it's a seed that you planted and continued to water, or it's a seed that somebody else planted in your life and you continued to water. You choose what seeds you water. So what you're currently living in is a harvest. You're always living in a harvest, and you're always planting new seeds. So if you don't like your harvest, plant seeds. Seeds, you're not going to see the flower the next day. You got to water it. You got to put it in good sunlight. You got to make sure it's in the right container. You got to make sure it has the right soil. Same thing is true for your life. Your environment matters. Who you're around matters. What you put inside of your mind, it matters. The thoughts that you focus on matter. And if you'll do that every single day, planting seeds that you know are good. We're not distorted. We know what seeds are good seeds and what seeds are not good seeds. You know, when we're making good decisions for our lives, we know it's a good decision. So as long as you know that right now today you're planting all the seeds that you can plant for the next 24 hours for just today, continue to do that over and over again. And guess what? You're going to reap a harvest later on that you're proud of, that you're excited about, and that you want to live.
There's this interesting skill I learned in boot camp because this drill instructor is yelling at your face, horrible breath, spitting on you,
Ew.
his hat's right here in front of you, yelling at you, and he's telling you look straight ahead. But the moment you eyeball him, the moment you make eye contact, right, hell was let loose, push-ups and until you threw up, right? But if you think about it, Emily, if you're looking at somebody and I'm looking at you right on your forehead, it's different than all of a sudden we make eye contact. There's an exchange of energy there, right? Mm-hmm. What I realized is your current condition could be right in front of you, spitting on you at the worst breath and the worst moment you just don't want in your life. But what I learned is I'd have to look through him. I was no longer making eye contact. I wasn't ignoring reality of what was happening right now, but I had to put my focus on something beyond him. I just got to get through this moment. Don't eyeball him. Don't give it energy. Look ahead. And then I'm not going to have to vomit in 5 minutes from push-ups and sit-ups and doing burpees, right?
Yeah, I see.
But it was a really weird skill because we are going to recycle whatever we focus on, right? If we don't want to constantly find ourselves in this depressive mode, then quit focusing on the things we did wrong, quit focusing on the pains that we're experiencing at the moment, and look at where do we want things to be? Where do we really want things to be? Then change my thoughts are, change where I'm giving my attention, because until I do that, I'm just telling the world I want more of it.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right?
No kidding. Yeah, because whatever you focus on grows. So if you're focusing on the pain, the hurt, the discomfort, the real hardships that we all experience in life, okay, but like how long are you going to focus on it? Because you're going to continue to stay there. Whereas if you can look at it, acknowledge it, experience it, feel it for what it is, and then at a certain point, you got to say, okay, I'm going to move on. That chapter is closed, and now it's time to start writing a new chapter. So start from where you're at and start moving forward. But you have to choose at a certain point to move forward past all the heartache and the uncomfortable spots. Because here's the thing is, like, people get so consumed with their own life that they think that they get into this mentality of their life is so horrible, their life is so bad, their hardship is so much more than anyone else. And I'm like, no, honey, you lack perspective. Go get into service, like what you were saying at the beginning of this podcast. Go put yourself into service and be of service to other people. Get out of your own life, and you'll realize you actually have so much more power than you realize to change your own life. But being consumed with your own problems and being in that victim mentality is going to get you nowhere. You already know that. So choose something different, and it's just a choice.
Life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. But you have to look at it and go, the current conditions that I have, you have to take extreme ownership and go, everything that I have right now is based on my actions and reactions to everything.
Yeah.
It's not because I'm a victim to this or a victim to that or a victim to this person. It's that I didn't react or act accordingly to what I truly wanted out of my life. But until we get to that point, we're still relying on everything else around us to produce the results that we can only produce for ourselves.
Yeah, so true. Or waiting for this like magical moment to appear, or a magical thing, or a magical breakthrough. And like, it's not magic. It's actually so much more simple than you think. It's called execution. Get out of your head and execute.
Actions are the separator. I want to ask you about 2 posts.
Okay. Did you print them out?
I did.
Oh gosh. Should I be nervous?
No. Needs to be cool.
Oh goodness.
This
Oh, where did you find that? Where did you find that?
I went
You
deep
found that on Facebook.
Yeah, I did.
Oh my goodness.
When was this? What was happening? Give us the context of this photo.
What year would that be?
I love doing these deep dives on people.
It had to have been in high school for sure. Those are Reilly, our friends from high school. They're sisters. And this is my brother, Daniel. What year did I graduate high school? 2008. So it had to have been like 2009. No, 2007 before I graduated. Yeah. Friends from some team. And I honestly do not remember what we were doing. Probably wrapping houses, because that was like during the swim team time where you like go wrap each other's houses. Yeah. Actually, I think that's exactly what we were doing that night. Yeah. Sorry to whoever's house we wrapped, but I know we did a great job because we are a family of excellence. We wrapped it great.
Don't you love these throwbacks, man?
That's crazy. Yeah. Wow. My brother, I would love to show that to him. My homie, Arnold Schwarzenegger. What's up? Yeah. That was at obviously the Arnold in 2000. I think it was 2013, right when I started. Mm-hmm. You know what's crazy? I forgot I had that photo. What's crazy is I moved to Venice, California, trained at Gold's Gym. He's always training at Gold's Gym. Yeah. So we saw each other all the time. And then it was at a point in my life where I was looking for a sign, right? I was like, praying a lot. And I was like, all right, God, if you want me to start competing again, I want you to give me signs. Like, show me that you want me to compete again. That week, every single trainer in Gold's Gym asked me when I was competing again. And I was like, what the heck, But then the cherry on top was Arnold Schwarzenegger coming up to me in the gym and saying, you look great. Are you preparing for another show? Because you should. And I was just like, okay, here we go.
I mean, what am I going to say to that?
Like, he just had Arnold Schwarzenegger come up to me that same week. You know what I mean? And I'm like, how do you deny that? You know what I mean? So I was like, all right. And I went after it again. So it's just a cool story. But yeah, he's always training at Gold's Gym in the morning.
Who's a person that you really enjoy following right now?
That I enjoy following? Like on social?
Yeah, on social. That you just really, whatever makes you laugh, just makes you feel good. Like you look forward to whatever it is they're going to post or have to say. Who would that be right now?
Let me think. I know they're out there. It's one of those on the spot questions that I'm like, who is it that I always gravitate towards? There's actually one friend that I have, very super random, but just one friend that I have. Her name's Arpy, and she is freaking hilarious on Instagram. She just has this like very big personality that's also very sassy, very comical, and I just love being able to laugh. So she's probably one person, but there's a few people on TikTok. I just started getting on TikTok. I'm starting to try to use it. And I found that it's the perfect like comedic relief at the end of a very long day when you've just been like, I feel like I'm so on it and I'm so serious and I'm so into my work and business all day that at the end of the day, sometimes all I want to do is just laugh at stupid things. Like I just need that. And TikTok does that for me. So yeah, TikTok is great. I'm exploring that a little bit more, but I don't know of them like personally.
There's this couple, Talia and Roger. They're this little couple in Vegas. I don't know how I came across them, but they are this hilarious couple on TikTok. And they put their stuff on Instagram too. But just their antics and how they are as this cute little young, it's so endearing and they're really comical and funny. Like,
I have a really good couple that I follow. They're actually like really good friends of mine, Shane and Kat Vidco. They're about to be married, but I already have Kat and my phone is Cat Vidco. Anyways, so they started on TikTok like during quarantine and they like built their TikTok. Now they're over like, 100,000. They're really successful on there, but they do those like little relationship TikToks that are so funny. Oh my gosh. I have like cried laughing at some of the ones that they're doing. And it's nice knowing them personally because I know like their backstory. Now that they're getting bigger on TikTok, people are like putting in all their own stories of them and their own perceptions and beliefs, and it's so funny like knowing how they actually are. But they're definitely that couple that gives me that like little comedic relief at the end of the day.
Who's somebody you want to meet?
Somebody I want to meet. I haven't thought about this actually in a long time. Who would I like
especially
to meet?
Sit down and have like a conversation with?
I do know Tim Story. Yeah, I really want to meet Tim Story. I will meet Tim Story. I'm not sure when, but it's funny. He actually spoke at, I think it was this like church service that I went to in LA on a Wednesday night randomly in Beverly Hills. And And so that was my first introduction to him, but I didn't really like pay much attention. And then I came across him on a podcast and was really, I don't know, I just feel like he's somebody that I would really want to be mentored by. His life path and what he's journeyed through, going from, you know, he actually went to like seminary school and then got out of that and is into like life coaching. And he comes from this background of being raised in religion and then realizing the difference between religion and relationship, and also into just his method and the way that he does things, the way that he works with his clients. It's something that really aligns with me. And I just feel like he's one of those people that I'm like, I don't know, our paths I think are meant to cross at some point. Maybe it's just through his podcasts and mentorships and stuff like that. But he's someone that I just really, really align heavily with and would love to learn from. So that's someone I'd like to meet.
What's a vice of yours?
A vice? What's a vice of yours? Give me an example.
Chips and salsa. That is my vice. And anything wrapped in a tortilla.
What'd you say?
And anything wrapped in a tortilla, like, to be honest.
I'll have to tell you what I thought I heard after the show. A vice. What is one of my vices?
It could be like chocolate and wine in your slippers, you know, vegging on a Netflix. Like, your vice could be racing for pink slips, like at night back on 249. Like whatever your vice may be, man.
My vice is like sick comedy that people would never know that I would laugh at. Like, and so I sit at home and like laugh at it by myself at home. And I think it's so funny.
What's one of your go-tos? Like a movie?
No, not a movie. Just like, I don't know, like, I guess like sometimes like dark or sick humor, like that I see on Instagram or something that I just like, I don't take it seriously. Yeah. So I think it's the funniest thing in the world. And I always like kind of want to post it, but I'm like, I can't, that's too far. You know what I mean?
People are not going to understand the context of why I find this funny.
Yes, they're not going to understand the context. So like one day I would love to share my sick humor with somebody. But it's just so, I don't take it seriously. People take things so seriously these days. They cannot have a laugh about something. And I can honestly laugh about mostly anything, I would say. So yeah, probably just like the little like memes and things that I laugh at by myself. Yeah. I think about that all the time.
I am the exact same way.
Yeah, I'm like,
I would never publicize a lot of things that make me laugh, but now my wife, she sends me some pretty dark stuff.
Does she?
Oh, that's why she's my wife, man.
That's
Come on.
awesome.
Like, and a lot of times at night, if we end up going to bed at the same time, so I'm normally a night owl. One of the funny things we do is we'll both pull up like fail memes.
Oh, or, yes.
You know,
those are great.
Just hilarious, and we just laugh and then we go to sleep.
Yes, laughter is the best medicine. I love to laugh. When I'm not working, when I'm not podcasting, filming, producing content on my computer, I want to laugh.
Jess, is this accurate?
She knows.
Well, Emily, where can everybody find you?
At Emily Hayden on Instagram and everywhere else. Just Emily Hayden, you will find me. YouTube, podcast, TikTok now. Hey. I have 2 TikToks up there. Shout out to my dad on TikTok at Doc Hayden. He just started his TikTok. He actually started before me, and he was like, the other day he called me and he's like, I just want you to know I'm only 3 followers behind you. I'm like, I haven't like really started or anything.
That's funny.
And so I told him I would give him a shout out. Go follow him and not me. Give him his glory.
Emily, thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome to reconnect, and even just hearing your perspective. You know, it's nice when you like get to talk with somebody who knew you from the beginning. Cause I don't know, I feel like you know who I am, you know, there's nothing to, I don't know, sift through. Like, you know me. I think some people, like you were saying earlier, might put me on a pedestal or have a certain perceived idea of me based on just social media. So I really value when there's people that know me from before social media, before the fake fame thing.
I so much appreciate in life having friendships and people that I've known for years that were either a pretty big deal when we met and they're no longer a big deal and they're still the same quality person that I'm still friends with. Others that I was friends with before they were a big deal, became a big deal, and still a great quality person and a great quality friendship. Those are the things that I value most, because I've seen so many people come and go based on popularity, based on monetary gain, based on look what I have now that you don't. You know, it's I'm better than you, you're less than me, and how they treat people, right? Because, you know, actions are the separator, like 100%. As we talked about, right? But it has been really cool to low key just see you go through what you go through and see how you've handled things. And I knew at some point you and I would end up be sitting down together, you know, to just hear the story, the fallout, the comeback, the continual rise from every day. We're kind of a phoenix.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the thing. Like, I don't always handle things properly. I don't always do, you know, the best thing or the I don't know. I try to always do the right thing. That's always my intent. But I'm a human. I mess up. I fall short. I make left turns that maybe I shouldn't make sometimes. Like, I'm just like everyone else. I have those hard days. I have those weak moments. But I always keep getting back up. And I think if you always keep getting back up and you always do your best to do the right thing, then that's when you can have longevity in who you are, where you're going, and where you end up.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed this really in-depth conversation with Emily Hayden. One of the most genuine people I've known for many years, through an industry full of disingenuine people. But go follow her, stay in connection with her, listen to her podcast. There are so many things that she is very honest about that people can really get some truly genuine encouragement from. When you're going through struggle, when you're questioning things about yourself, about society, you will get nuggets that will really help you because of who she is, because of who she gets into her conversations. You'll really gain a lot. I'm just stoked to have you as a friend and just to see you doing so well.
Thank you.
Like, that is one of the coolest things.
Thank you. It's been really cool to see you too and where you've ended up, and touring the place earlier was so awesome, and just everything that you're doing now and your heart and your passion for what you're doing, and knowing that you have people that have that same heart and passion, I think is really a beautiful thing, because it's hard to carry the team, so to speak, when you're the only person that has that heart and passion. And so to see someone that's a really good person paired up with those same people, that's awesome.
Look, man, you know, like the CEO of this company, he's, you know, helping set up one of our new locations. One of the other owners is running sound. I mean, This is just the team that we have.
That's
man.
awesome.
This is one of the coolest things in life to be doing, for them to even believe in this.
Yes.
Right. And go, let's give it a run.
Yes.
Right.
Oh my God, that's huge. Yeah. And those are the people that you want to build with.
Yeah, man.
People want the thing that looks shiny on the outside, but has no depth. When a storm comes, they're going to be the first to leave. You want the people with depth. I would rather go through 10 storms with people with depth than have a little run of success and then nothing at all with people that look great on the outside.
Mic drop. Right at the end. Emily, thank you, my friend.
Of course. No problem. Thank you.
Guys, go check her out on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, on every audio platform you can get with Evolve with Emily. But until next time, keep grinding.